when a frail old man in a hospital bed tells Wudi to watch over his family. The old man needs him to support them. Just then, the boy steps inside. He brings his father his favorite omelet, telling him not to worry about their mother. She took on another part-time job, which means they do not have to stress about money. Instead, he should just focus on his studies. His little sister turns to him next. She asks him to try her sweet candy, insisting that it tastes absolutely delicious. But to him, the only thing that really matters is that she listens to their mother. Deciding to attend school is what keeps him moving forward, but then everything shifts. A classmate confronts him, demanding to know how Wudi dares to show his face here. After everything that went down, school has become a breeding ground for endless teasing. They refuse to leave the boy alone for even a single second. One bully steps forward. He starts screaming that he is just a pathetic weakling trying to play the hero. Trying to win a girl's heart that way is completely outdated, but as for that girl, the one he actually likes, she only hopes he will stand tall and stay safe. She tells him not to worry about her because he must protect himself first. The heated argument spills right onto the street, and they fail to see the danger. And trust me, things are about to get tragic as a speeding car heads their way. He does not notice the teenager standing right in the middle of the road. By the time he reacts, it is already too late. It all happens in a flash. Bystanders can only watch in absolute horror, frozen in place as the nightmare unfolds. They cannot even believe their own eyes. For Wudi, this moment spells disaster. The brutal impact triggers a terrible tragedy that will alter his destiny forever. He is left with absolute fear and pure helplessness. All that matters now is whether he can somehow cling to life right here. Danger surrounds him on every side, and no one saw this coming. This sudden, brutal twist completely shatters their entire reality. Everything changes in an instant. Right then, total panic begins. With no idea what to do, our hero silently sends out a final message. He apologizes to his mother and little sister for failing to protect them. As darkness starts to take over, a powerful realization washes over his mind. If there is a next life, he will protect his precious ones at all costs. Now our entire journey shifts to the magical continent of Arcanas. This is where a brand new legend full of deadly trials begins. Deep within this land, a grand gathering is currently taking place. Today is the day of the massive, highly anticipated annual divine blessing. By tradition, all children under the age of 6 must offer a tribute. Offering their most valuable possession to the gods will decide their ultimate destiny. Right in the center of the ritual grounds, a high priest steps forward. He explains that once a tribute is made, a divine messenger will appear. The entity will sense the child's hidden magical power, giving them a shot at greatness. In the excited crowd, a young boy eagerly looks up at his mother. He asks her if his favorite sweet candy is a good enough gift. She is not sure, as the offering should be a rare, glittering gemstone. Just then, an onlooker notices the stunning jewels worn by Lady Blanca. She is absolutely amazed by their incredible shine and unmatched elegance. They learn that a higher status meant a much greater chance of success. Because of this, the kids offered the gods the most valuable things they owned. Rumors spread through the crowd that the wealthy Ryan family was playing for keeps. They had reportedly spent their entire fortune just to guarantee their kids a blessing. Though gossip spread, the family did not care, not one bit. Their sole focus was giving their children crucial knowledge for the future. This desperate gamble actually came as a huge shock to many onlookers. They all knew it. Failing to get a blessing meant absolute ruin. The head of the family, Holt Ryan, was risking absolutely everything today. He wanted to give his beloved children the absolute best shot at life. In his eyes, his 2 youngest children were destined for greatness. Lucas and Julia were brilliant and would surely receive a divine gift. Silence, tension filled the hall as everyone waited to see who was next. All the kids watched the host, holding their breath, hoping to be chosen. Then the host called out Julia Ryan, who stepped forward with her offering. She held her head high, completely aware of all the eyes on her. Approaching the grand altar, the young girl prepared to make her move. She carefully placed down a stunning golden crown encrusted with bright diamonds. Suddenly, an incredible surge of light and energy erupted all around her. Fear and wonder hit her at once. It was completely breathtaking. Confused but thrilled, she realized she was receiving a real blessing. Her heart raced with excitement as the holy light enveloped her body. And get this, she actually triggered the legendary 7th level. No one had witnessed a 7th level blessing in over 20 whole years. This was an absolute miracle for the family, proving her hidden potential. Unstoppable power rushed through Julia, cementing her place as a prodigy. Standing tall, she held her head high and took a deep breath. She felt a massive surge of fresh power flood her entire being. The overwhelming energy left her feeling both thrilled and slightly lightheaded. Her proud parents knew exactly what this meant. This legendary crown of thunder did not actually cost their entire family fortune. But it still held immense, godlike power that pleased the heavens. Still, not everyone cheered. Some in the crowd looked on with envy. They expected Lucas, the family son, to present the main relic. The family's true, secret treasure was reserved solely for the son. Holt stepped up to Lucas, adjusted his tie, and whispered encouragement. A quick pep talk he needed to boost his son's confidence. With his father backing him, the young man knew it was time. He stepped up to the altar without a single trace of hesitation. Grabbing the sword from the heavy chest, he felt a massive adrenaline rush. Lucas stood ready to face whatever trials the gods threw his way. When the stunned onlookers saw the weapon he was about to offer, they gasped in absolute shock. The blade radiated an incredible, majestic aura that left them speechless. Everyone knew this weapon was forged by Vulcan, the ancient god of fire. He prepared his mind, showing deep respect for this godlike power. Facing him, despite his fear, the young man walks confidently toward the altar. As his little sister quietly wishes him luck, cheering him on in spirit. Seeing the young son of the Ryan family offering up his tribute, the host is utterly stunned. That sword is no ordinary blade, but a priceless and rare relic. Everyone here knows his father put absolutely everything on the line. For this boy, betting it all on a future full of endless possibilities. The moment the sword touches the altar, a strange and bizarre energy begins to shift, sending shockwaves through the gathered crowd. Out in the open air, every single eye watches in shock as the sky above them starts warping, bleeding into a breathtaking, colorful display. No one has ever witnessed such raw power. Even the head of the house, Ryan, wonders in utter disbelief if his son just unlocked the legendary 9th level of mastery. Meanwhile, the roaring flames surrounding the altar do more than just light up the dark. They pulse with a heavy, suffocating magic. Suddenly, the entire area is painted in a deep, violent crimson, as if the very oxygen has caught fire, saturating the atmosphere with raw power. In the absolute dead center of this chaotic storm stands young Lucas, who can barely process what is happening through his rising panic and awe. His jaw drops even further as his precious family blade suddenly begins to float high above, casting a blinding, celestial glow over the entire courtyard. With every single heartbeat, the boy is utterly mesmerized by the sheer weight of this ancient magic shifting the reality right before his eyes. Staring intensely at the unfolding madness, the young man desperately tries to decipher what kind of power this is and what comes next. Then a surge of pure, warm energy begins flooding into his veins, filling him with a sudden, overwhelming rush of absolute power and clarity. But slowly, the blinding light begins to fade, signaling the grand finale of the ritual, leaving the spectators holding their breath in silent anticipation. The brilliant crimson sky slowly fades back to its original shade, as if the magical tempest had never even occurred. But as the dust settles, Lucas's family is sick with worry, while the rest of the onlookers mutter in confusion. Why has no divine messenger shown up to claim him? Wait, look at the altar. A little girl suddenly gasps, pointing directly at the platform, forcing everyone to turn their eyes back in shock. They freeze in absolute terror. Lucas is floating completely hands-free, suspended in midair while radiating a violent, untamed wave of magical power. Moments later, the gravity returns, and he collapses to the stone floor. Completely drained from the intense ordeal, seeing her brother fall, little Julia drops her lollipop, tears of sheer panic and shock welling in her eyes. Instantly, the frantic Ryan family scrambles up the steps toward Lucas, desperate to check if their boy is still breathing, out of her mind. With fear, his mother begs and prays that her child will just open his eyes and be safe from this volatile, dangerous magic. But as they try to revive him, the host standing near them coldly sneers that the gods have rejected the boy, claiming that is why no miracle occurred. The hosts. The dark suspicion turned out to be true. It was indeed the family's son, Ryan, who had been rejected by the master of magic, leaving him without the god's blessing. Seeing their son broken, the parents held him close, desperately trying to comfort him after the failed trial. Meanwhile, the scene shifts deep into the fiery domain of the god of fire, where a strange phenomenon begins to unfold, shifting the very air and filling the chamber with raw magical energy. And the Ryan family placed a sword on the altar, one that nearly killed the lord of the flame. The deity grew furious, seeing the weapon still bore marks of the attempts to break it. Right beside him stood his young assistant, who quickly tried to pacify his raging master. In the god of fire's eyes, the Ryan family should be grateful that he merely shattered the boy's soul instead of inflicting a far worse punishment. But when the assistant approached closer, he sensed something bizarre. An otherworldly soul had taken over Lucas's physical body and asked his master if he should eliminate it. Despite the servant's warning, the god declared it was pointless to waste divine power on an outer world parasite. Suddenly, a strange object materializes right before them, and they lean in to inspect it, realizing this relic is actually quite impressive and perfect for their plans. Once the yearly blessing ceremony ends, the boy is left in a terrible state, utterly exhausted by the intense magical pressure. Later, as the god of fire roams his territory, he discovers a hidden celestial cave where concentrated magic pulses with terrifying force, filling the cavern with blinding light and warmth. Suddenly, the god's eyes begin to glow with brilliant crimson light, signaling a massive awakening of his inner force. With power overflowing, the deity begins to descend into the depths, carefully pacing himself as he readies his newfound strength for what comes next. Each step he takes is completely silent, measured, and dripping with raw confidence, but his form continues to burn with an ethereal glow, radiating divine majesty. Upon reaching the bottom, he finally confronts the primal source that controls this entire world, pulsing with endless power, even in front of such immense pressure. God demands to know why this cosmic anchor is blocking his ascension to higher realms, keeping his true potential locked away. But to this ancient entity, the words of a mere god mean absolutely nothing, so it instantly moves to attack, skipping any useless talk, drawing in all the latent energy in the chamber. The massive creature targets the god of fire, unleashing a devastating blast to end this clash instantly. But after the strike misses its mark, the beast simply grins, growing even more confident as it prepares for another strike. The monster watches the fire deity close the distance, but suddenly freezes as a wave of pure terror washes over its mind. Sensing the lethal danger, the god of fire pushes past his fear, channeling every ounce of his essence. He gathers the burning embers of his entire soul, focusing all that heat directly onto the beast. He pours his total will into this final make-or-break strike that will decide his ultimate fate. With one cataclysmic blast, the god of fire completely vaporizes the creature, scattering its corrupt core and ending this deadly threat once and for all. Even after unleashing such a world-ending blow, the deity looks entirely unbothered. He felt completely in control, wrapped in his own absolute power. After destroying his opponent, the ruler confidently moved forward, ready for whatever trials lay ahead. Traveling a bit further, the god of fire decided to finally test the true limits of his energy. He felt it flow through his body and fill the space around him, but after trying it, he realized the source was nowhere near as strong as he expected, and its energy was vastly inferior to his own. Suddenly, he spotted a strange, flickering glow nearby that caught his eye, forcing him to pause and take a closer look. Turns out, it was an assistant yelling that the god of war himself was approaching, and his heavy presence already filled the surrounding air, halting the divine messenger. The man demanded to know why he was disturbing him and what caused his unexpected appearance. When the god of fire sensed something strange, he immediately asked if his former trainer, Ritsuku, had been destroyed. The ruler's real question was what was happening on Arcanas, and his little helper tried to explain the chaotic situation in detail. After the helper's explanation, the man recalled that 1,000 years ago, martial arts were far stronger than magic, but now everything had changed drastically. Hearing the ruler's words, the little helper remarked that if he hadn't been so obsessed with martial arts, he wouldn't have let that small god escape. The master realized it would be incredibly tough to spread his beloved art alone, or to find worthy disciples who could carry on his legacy. As the young messenger stared into the fire, he suddenly realized that he had zero interest in inheriting this legacy and chose a different path. It was crucial for the master to pass his knowledge to the next generation and find a truly worthy disciple who would carry on his work and protect their traditions. In the opinion of such a small creature, there is always a higher peak to strive. For by constantly pushing past your own limits, unexpectedly the young man began to hear strange voices, though he felt completely fine. Even so, the sudden noise alarmed him. Right before his eyes, he saw dozens of tiny figures gesturing wildly and trying to grab his attention. Trying to gather his thoughts, the confused boy still could not fully comprehend the strange scene unfolding around him. What on earth was happening? Standing right before Lucas was a messenger of Mars, the god of war, here to bestow a powerful blessing and unlock a brand new strength. Once the spirit spoke, Lucas stood frozen, completely unable to process the situation. He figured he was just hallucinating, watching several tiny glowing figures float right in front of him. From the start, the young man was utterly lost. Sensing this, the little assistant of the god of war tried once more to explain who he was and why he was currently hovering by his bedside. To Lucas, this entire situation felt incredibly bizarre and terrifying, leaving him completely clueless about the messenger's true motives. At that exact moment, Lucas was suddenly floored by a sharp, stinging blow to the head, sending his vision spinning into total darkness. But from this chaotic blessing, the boy skyrocketed straight to the 9th level, breaking all limits on his martial arts while absorbing the rare, powerful essence of autumn. Despite feeling incredibly weak, he forced himself to stand up, gathering every ounce of his resolve. After surviving that intense ordeal, Lucas sat up in his bed, completely dazed. He couldn't understand what had just happened, or who this god of war really was. Total shock, but another massive question kept bothering him. Why did these spirits possess such overwhelming, godly magical power? Lucas paused to think about what was actually happening to him. He desperately tried to make sense of these bizarre events unfolding around him. Then it hit him: he should be dead right now. He had no explanation. Fear and shock washed over him as he tried to grasp his new reality. Slowly, the truth took shape. It wasn't just some crazy, vivid dream. He had experienced a genuine, life-altering magical event that changed everything. But his mind was still fuzzy, blocked by a flood of fragmented memories. He remembered being a weak, helpless child inside the powerful Ryan family. Back then, he didn't understand anything. Now, he wondered if the gods were playing. Were they just mocking him, keeping him completely in the dark? But get this, a sudden, chilling realization hit Lucas. He had been reborn as a pathetic nobody, a boy abandoned by the gods. If his family disowns him, his second life will be absolute hell. Staring down at his trembling hands, a wave of protectiveness washed over him. He thought of his mother and sister Azusa, who relied solely on him. But then he recalled the messenger's warning and felt a chill. He knew absolutely nothing about martial arts. He wasn't ready for this power. But before he could spiral into worry, his thoughts were cut short. The quiet sound of a small candy dropping to the floor caught his attention. It completely broke his train of thought, pulling him out of his panic. He looked toward the bedroom door, completely unprepared for what was standing there. Standing right, there was someone who instantly shattered his uneasy peace. A tiny girl stood in the doorway, her big eyes brimming with heavy tears. Seeing her brother sitting up, little Julia couldn't hold back anymore. Tears poured down her face as her emotions completely took over. Even though he was still visibly weak, the little girl rushed forward. She threw her arms around him, weeping with absolute joy that he was awake. This was a miracle for her, and she had to tell him everything. She tearfully explained how Jeremy and the others claimed he would never wake up. Lucas quickly pulled her close, gently trying to calm his sobbing little sister. He realized that little Julia was genuinely terrified of losing him forever. Seeing her sweet relief reminded him of the family from his past life. He could only imagine how devastated they must have been when he died. But looking at his sobbing new sister, a fire ignited inside his chest. A silent vow: this time he would protect his family. No matter what, he would use the god of war's power to shield them. Meanwhile, over at the grand altar, an eerie, heavy magic filled the air. The atmosphere was suffocatingly tense, far too heavy for a standard divine blessing. But it started with absolute silence, calm and deceptively peaceful. Nothing warned the crowd of the chaotic storm that was about to unfold. Then a single drop fell onto the statue's face, triggering a massive chain reaction of dark, dangerous events around the altar. Suddenly, fresh blood began to flow down, the stone sculpture coating its surface in a chilling, bright red glow. A terrifying beast slowly crawled up from the underground ruins. It broke through, instantly filling the quiet space with heavy, suffocating dread. The strange creature immediately sensed absolutely no other abominations nearby. Its path was completely clear and safe for its next moves. Looking at its reflection, the beast realized the rival it once feared was finally gone, either destroyed or completely vanished from this world. At the same time, it felt extremely weak, with barely any power left. Despite her extreme weakness, the mysterious woman refused to break. She straightened her back, planning her next move with absolute cold focus. To her, only one thing mattered: soon, this world would belong to them. Everything else was completely secondary and could easily wait for now. 9 long years slowly passed by after those bizarre, unsettling events. Now the story shifts directly to the quiet Ryan family estate. The atmosphere here was peaceful, filled with a quiet sense of anticipation. Our main character, Lucas, decided to take a relaxing walk through the courtyard. The weather was finally clearing up, making him think of his sister. He wondered if Julia's magic lessons were already over for today. He really wanted to meet up with her, eager to spend some peaceful time together, enjoying her cheerful company and conversation after a very long day. And just like that, a sudden, rustling sound behind him shatters the peace. The noise made him spin around much faster than he expected. Suddenly, a thick, magical vine wrapped around Lucas, hoisting him up. He struggled hard against its grip, trying to find his footing. Seeing his attacker, he could not believe his brother was pulling these cheap stunts. Behind him stood Jeremy, watching his struggles with a smug, mocking expression. This sudden, hostile encounter was actually nothing new for the young man at all. Bitter arguments had broken out between the two brothers many times before. To Jeremy, Lucas was just a magicless reject abandoned by the gods. He truly believed only the family's actual mages deserved to stand here. Even the estate maid was constantly shocked that Lucas still lived here. The house servants were completely shocked that the useless boy was still here. Suddenly, the thick, magical vine squeezed the young man's body even tighter. But he refused to show his arrogant brother any sign of pain. He stayed quiet, keeping his absolute focus on finding a quick way out. Jeremy wanted to make sure his weak sibling learned a painful lesson. He wanted him to understand the consequences of challenging his superior power. But despite his lack of magic, Lucas fought to keep his dignity. He refused to let anyone treat him like a stepping stone. Jeremy simply stared, his smug expression quickly turning into utter surprise. Lucas calmly warned him that their sister Julia would arrive any second. Her magic class was almost finished, and Jeremy might get struck by lightning. He told the arrogant fourth child of the family to release him. He demanded immediate release, but Jeremy only smirked at the empty threat. Arrogantly mocking the worthless brother, he acted completely fearless, claiming not even a massive lightning strike could shake his calm. But the very moment he smugly dismissed the warning as nothing more than foolish, empty talk. A blinding flash suddenly struck the boy down, forcing a violent flinch. Within minutes of that shock, the maid beside him panicked. She screamed in terror as Jeremy lay completely motionless on the ground. Sensing the source of that power, Lucas turned around in shock. There stood his little sister Julia, quietly watching him. Stepping closer, she looked ready to raise her wand and strike again. She was fully prepared to raise her wand and unleash the absolute peak of her magical fury. Julia made her warning loud and clear: insult her brother again, and the consequences would be 100 times worse than today. He would have to face the absolute, crushing limits of her terrifying and protective fury. To her, this was no simple threat, it was a vow. A clear sign she would do whatever it took to protect Lucas. With the danger finally cleared, she ran to help Lucas, gently untangling him from those sharp, clinging branches. She carefully freed his limbs so he would not get hurt at all. Soon the broken vines littered the ground, leaving Lucas battered but relieved. Now that he was free, he hugged her tightly. Lucas held his sister, overwhelmed with gratitude for her rescue. Julia immediately asked him if he had learned his lesson. Keeping him safe from future danger was all she wanted. Meanwhile, Jeremy struggled to push himself up, groaning in pain. Yet he forced his heavily bruised body to stand up, absolutely refusing to look weak. Even with his maid assisting, he barely had any strength left to stand. Taking charge of the situation, she basically carried him as they ran away at full speed. They fled, desperate to escape the immediate danger. Watching them run, Lucas wondered if Julia had actually held back. Did she intentionally spare Jeremy from her true lightning strike? No one but those two knew the secret of his powers. But the true extent of Lucas's hidden powers remained a secret that only those two shared. He believed Julia was simply using these fights to practice. Watching her progress only made his brotherly love grow deeper. He promised himself he would do whatever it takes to support and protect her future. Walking with her, Lucas realized 9 whole years had already flown by. 9 years since his rebirth, a wild journey if you think about it. He remembered the tense moment his father first stepped into his room. Back then, he was terrified he would be kicked out of the house for failing them. Instead, his father's heavy cane clattered loudly to the floor. A thick, heavy silence engulfed the room as everyone held their breath, waiting for the absolute worst. Then the family head wrapped his arms around his son. He warmly declared that his awakening was the only thing that actually mattered to him. All other expectations were completely meaningless in that single moment. Hearing those gentle words, Lucas finally realized his father truly loved him for who he was. Cared about nothing but his own children and their well-being, and even though his father was a busy knight who was rarely home, he still managed to be incredibly loving and supportive. When he found out his son started training in martial arts, he immediately sent a letter urging him to use the family archives. Reading those old records carefully, Lucas decided it was time to make his move and put this knowledge to the test. Frankly, he was pretty shocked his dad backed him up, since he expected the complete opposite. But get this, without this sudden support, he would never have been ready to pull off the crazy, massive plan he had been plotting for so long. But now he had the confidence to move forward. With absolute certainty, back at the manor, absolutely nobody could figure out where young Master Lucas kept disappearing to, because his daily routine was completely wild and unpredictable to the staff. In fact, one of the maids whispered that there was no point worrying about a kid who could not even cast basic magic and would probably end up kicked out anyway. But mid-chat, she shivers, sensing a sudden heavy shift in the air around them as an invisible force catches their attention. They start to suspect Lucas might actually be practicing earth magic, because lately the very ground beneath their feet has been shaking and trembling. Despite the growing risks the young boy kept training in complete secret, pushing his limits far away from any prying eyes. For Lucas, clearing out this specific area was absolutely crucial to perfect his moves and keep total control over his environment. Once he finished digging his secret hideout, he realized the space was more than enough, especially since it took 4 grueling months to build this private training ground with his own bare hands. His secret new sanctuary was split into 4 zones: a classroom, a training field, a storage closet, and a recovery bath to soothe his aching muscles. To build this, he blew through every single coin he saved, so a cheap bath would have to do for now. Once finished, Lucas jumped straight into daily training, pushing his combat and magical skills to the absolute limit, while building insane physical strength and mastering his inner power. To him, soaking in hot medicinal baths was easily the best way to melt away the tension after brutal training, helping his body recover and prep for the next day. 3 years flew by since the day he first discovered that secret archive book to train with. And honestly, prepare yourself, 5th level magic and below cannot leave a single scratch on his skin. Realizing his defenses were getting pretty insane, Lucas wondered how he would hold up if real monsters actually came at him with full force. At that exact moment, he decided to try a dangerous test to see just how tough his body really was. To pull this off, the young master needed a real sword to test his defenses and execute his wild experiment, so he kept up his daily training, grinding away, slowly building his physical power, endurance, and overall magical control. His determined gaze proves it. He has absolutely no plans to stop and is ready to face any trial to reach his goal. For this training, the young man uses both swords and spears, sharpens his deadly combat technique, and improves his skills across totally different styles and ranges. With Every passing day, his moves get better. Somehow, he is becoming way more precise, powerful, controlled, edging closer to absolute mastery. After one intense session with the spear, the young warrior completely shatters. A heavy training dummy, just pure physical force. Talk about real progress in his martial arts. Thanks to this, Lucas has already mastered the fourth form of the thunder spear, summoning storm clouds. Yet despite his success, he wants more. He targets even more difficult techniques. For 9 whole years, his power just keeps climbing. But a single question keeps bugging him, refusing to leave him alone. Even during heavy practice, from old books he learned that when a master hits a certain peak, they hit a hard ceiling on their abilities. The only way past is to gain rare enlightenment, but those who try usually fall into deep despair, so almost nobody chooses this road, although it is just as strong as high magic. Armed with this knowledge, Lucas thinks he is different. He is sure he can achieve more than other martial artists. With a completely quiet mind, the young man keeps pushing, focused, confidently moving toward his main goal. To check his own power levels, the young master decides to beat up the heavy punching bag, perfecting his power. Speed and precision. Every single strike becomes noticeably harder, faster, and far more controlled, a clear sign of his constant progress. In physical combat, thick dust now swirls around the bag, highlighting the insane power behind each and every violent impact. The dust flies high up from the sheer weight of his blows, proving his raw physical strength and precision are reaching entirely new levels, getting stronger with every heavy fist. This training unlocks the 5th form of his exploding fist. Of frenzied war, massive progress right there. Realizing his levels keep rising fast, the young man wonders if there really is a solid cap on his growth. Just how far can he push this? Honestly, he thinks his wild theory might actually turn out to be true, because he holds a divine blessing, giving him hope for endless potential. Suddenly, his deep thoughts about martial peaks are cut off by a ticking clock, snapping him right back into the present moment. Looking at the hour, the young warrior realizes that evening is fast approaching, along with a nice family dinner with his loved ones. After getting dressed, Lucas heads down, feeling just a little nervous, but also incredibly happy to finally see his beloved family members again. As the young man pushes the door open, he instantly spots the people dearest to his heart. They are already gathered around the table, waiting with warm, welcoming smiles. For Ryan, it is pure joy to see his boy again. It has been 6 whole months since they last met, so he quickly beckons him to take a seat. Lucas is genuinely thrilled to see his closest family members finally sharing a meal together once more. He gladly accepts his father's warm invitation, heading over to the vacant chair with a bright smile. Suddenly, Ryan drops his very first big announcement. He has officially enrolled Lucas in the famous Allen Magic Academy, which is launching a brand new martial arts department. But get this, Jeremy absolutely despises this news. Though the father knows the path ahead is incredibly tough, he believes in his son, explaining that the tough entrance exams begin next week. Hearing this, Lucas expresses his deep gratitude for this amazing chance to chase his passion, sharpening his combat skills day after day. In his mind, his current world does not matter. His only true goal is protecting the people he loves, and doing so quietly, without drawing too much attention or causing massive scenes. Next, a total surprise catches Lucas off guard as his little sister speaks up, sparking a wave of curiosity and quiet excitement at the table. For her, the biggest hope is getting her father's blessing to attend classes at the Allen Academy so she can develop her magical talents over the coming years. This comes as a massive shock to Ryan, since his young daughter wants to enroll despite her very tender age, but she quickly explains that the academy features an elite class where age is completely ignored. Smiling, the young lady hands a sealed letter over to her father, explaining she has already secured a direct, official invite to study there. Taking the document and scanning the lines, the head of the family is highly stunned. Her stellar reputation has grown so massive that even the legendary Allen Academy took notice. Her parents are absolutely beaming with unmatched pride, realizing they will soon witness the rise of an incredibly powerful mage under their very roof. Hearing these encouraging words from their parents, the siblings are overjoyed. However, one person remains cold. Jeremy simply cannot comprehend why Lucas deserves such an incredible opportunity, utterly refusing to view him as a worthy student for the prestigious school. He is completely obsessed with protecting his very own fragile status, which might shatter if his brother successfully joins the elite institution. Out of nowhere, a hand suddenly grabs Jeremy tightly by the jacket collar and yanks him backward, forcing him to spin around and see who is responsible. Though still seated at the table, he yells out angrily. But his outburst is instantly shut down. He must behave. Nobody at the table understands why he is lashing out so aggressively today. Clearly consumed by bitter, toxic thoughts, sitting right next to the furious Jeremy is his mother, Jessica, the second wife of the Ryan household, and she is desperately trying to quiet her raging son, wearing a very subtle, knowing smile on her face. She softly whispers that his brother might just fail to make the cut. Straight into the Allen Academy, confident that absolutely nothing would go wrong. A full week after the family dinner, it was finally time to head to the martial arts entrance exams. Arts department at Allen Academy, ready to show off their incredible skills and abilities before sending them off to school. Their highly supportive, loving mother wished them both the best of luck, promising she would visit them once they had settled in to offer support and help them adjust. Right then, the young lady remembered the special gold coins that the generous family head had personally given his children, so they could easily use them during their stay. Those coins belonged to the Boone dynasty, declaring peace 10,000 years ago, and their father received them after defeating a powerful magical beast. Before handing the coins over to the children, he explained that they depicted Emperor Mars, the Empire's very first leader, on the front and his primary weapon on the back. Seeing the image on the coin, Lucas instantly remembered that it was the exact same spirit he had seen before. Once all their preparations were fully complete, the parents asked for only one thing: that they keep the coins as protective talismans and remember their family's constant love and support. Lucas felt incredibly lucky because he was blessed to live in such a warm, caring household. Putting their excitement aside, the kids confidently set off, ready for brand new challenges and exciting adventures. With pure determination and complete faith in their own strength, a few hours after setting off, everyone realized they had to pitch camp to rest up and regain their energy. During their rest, Mr. Fonin explained that leaving early tomorrow morning would bring them to Daku, where the academy is located, by nightfall. Hearing her husband say they would arrive in that city so quickly, Julia immediately wanted to know what interesting sights they could see there. Right away, the family's assistant thought of when mentioning Daku was the annual kickboxing tournament held in spring, drawing in massive crowds of eager spectators. Another highlight that easily impresses both locals and outside visitors is the incredible local cuisine, which is famous way beyond the city's borders for its delicious variety of dishes and unique flavors. As Fonin described the local food, Lucas noticed the first signs of genuine excitement showing on his sister's face. Suddenly, the young man caught a highly unusual sound right near their camp, which instantly forced him to listen intently to every single rustle around them. Using his unique abilities, the boy calculated that about 2 kilometers away, 12 horses and 13 armed people were charging rapidly toward their camp. Lucas quickly decided to share his suspicions with the assistant, but he brushed it off, saying an encounter with bandits was incredibly unlikely. His chaotic ambush technique is honestly no joke. It didn't just give him fight moves, but also a sharp intuition that never once failed him. He was absolutely sure, for Lucas, caution was absolutely critical, since there were only 5 of them on this journey, and one of them was just a kid. Taking a risk, he still warned that an unknown group was closing in incredibly fast, and they desperately had to figure out a solid plan of action immediately. But nobody understood what he was talking about, since the forest was completely quiet and they sensed zero threat around them. Fonin is the very first to raise his weapon on pure instinct. He does not fully understand what is happening, but his reflexes take over immediately. Getting up, he spots the guards just sitting around doing nothing. He instantly commands everyone to set up their defenses and get ready for action. Playing it safe is definitely the best option for Fonin right now. Even without knowing where the warning came from, they cannot risk any unpredictable consequences. Out of nowhere, the enemy group suddenly rolls up to the camp. Their sudden arrival spikes the tension, because the defenders had zero time to construct a proper plan. Nobody can believe the young man's warning actually turned out true. This threat is incredibly real, forcing everyone to immediately scramble into defensive positions. Meanwhile, the approaching bandits are practically drooling. Their boss was right, the academy exams mean plenty of wealthy nobles are in the area. Before the fight even starts, the bandits are already planning their loot. Bandits greedily discuss who they will sell off and if the boy has value. Fonan decides to confront the outlaws, asking a very direct question. He wants to know if they realize the consequences of laying a hand on nobility. But these lawless thugs do not give a damn about noble status. For them, the only thing that matters is the massive ransom for the kids. Two brave guards charge forward immediately, fully prepared to protect the camp. They unleash their entire physical strength and combat skill to push back the raid. Unfazed by the defense, the bandits march forward with absolute confidence. They are ready to kill, their blades clash. Metal grinds against metal, sending bright sparks flying all over the battlefield. One guard confidently unleashes a decisive, heavy blow. His opponent is left with absolutely no room to escape or defend. The sheer lethality of the guards completely stuns the approaching bandits. Anyone who gets too close to their perimeter is instantly and ruthlessly cut down. Even the family assistant resolutely jumps straight into the fray to support his allies. Meanwhile, Julia prepares to unleash her powerful magic. She wants to end this fight quickly, but Fonan urges her to step back and leave the combat entirely to him. The small-scale battle is now in full swing. Every single strike could decide their fate. Catching his breath, the assistant Ryan warns Lucas and his sister. He tells them to flee as far away from this dangerous zone as possible. Suddenly, a bizarre, metallic noise alerts the young man. He strains his ears, then he notices something terrifying. Raging flames suddenly erupt all around them, instantly trapping everyone in a blazing ring. Talk about an absolute nightmare scenario, unfolding in a split second. One crazy bandit risks everything, acting completely unpredictably for profit. Witnessing this complete madness, Fondon is utterly stunned. Could there actually be an incredibly powerful mage hiding in their group? Dodging a sudden and incredibly powerful magical blast, he screams at his men to retreat. He orders them to scatter into the dense forest to save themselves. But a sudden, brutal blow catches the assistant completely off guard. Searching for any way out of this death trap, but once Lucas saw the bloody mess, absolute terror gripped him, followed by an agonizing wave of panic. For Fondon, was he still alive? Could he even reach him in time? Every second mattered. Right now, the heavily bleeding assistant stood completely surrounded by hostile thugs. They circled him like vultures, tracking his every agonizing movement, and waiting for him to finally collapse, even with Fondon already badly hurt. The brutal ringleader wanted to make sure there was absolutely nothing left of him, seeking total vengeance for his fallen comrade, yet despite his deep wounds, the brave assistant refused to yield to the gangster's cruel threats, making it clear he would protect those kids even if it cost his life. Seeing that the brave man would sacrifice everything for him and his sister, Lucas knew he had to act, even if it meant exposing his hidden strength. Fondon was only at the second level of martial arts and stood absolutely zero chance against that dangerous mage. Everyone knew of his boundless kindness. Lucas valued him far more than his own biological parents, treating him like genuine family. Now, with the life of his closest relative on the line, the young man had to do whatever it took to save them. Taking charge, Lucas resolved to save his family. He told his sister to run and hide while he charged straight into the threat. She nodded quickly, following her beloved brother's clear instructions to find safety and stay far away from the danger. Quietly but with complete focus, Lucas slipped toward a secret spot, without drawing any unwanted attention, preparing for the upcoming clash. Meanwhile, despite his deep injuries and sheer exhaustion, Fondon guarded the camp, blocking incoming attacks and refusing to give up. But his energy was draining fast, slowing down his defense, and leaving him heavily exposed. Out of nowhere, a bandit lunged at his blind spot, but the sneak attack was instantly blocked and shut down. Knowing his strength was now completely gone, the assistant gathered his final breath to shield those children from the end. Decisive moment, suddenly dead silence fell. A heavy shockwave began to rattle the battlefield. It felt as though time itself had suddenly ground to a halt, freezing everything in place under an incredibly heavy, suffocating pressure. Fear took over. No one present understood what was happening as the terrifying, massive energy built up all around them. Then came the swift counterattack, with every single strike. The thugs were utterly broken and crushed, with no way to fight back. They stood completely paralyzed in absolute shock, frozen solid by the overwhelming might unfolding. Right in front of their eyes, hidden within Lucas's hands, was a mysterious weapon that kept his massive power fully under control. Now, having fully unlocked the legendary 4th level of his Storm Strike, he could effortlessly crush any ordinary opponent who dared to cross him. The surviving thugs stood completely dazed, having no clue who had just wiped out their entire squad with such lethal, terrifying precision. As absolute panic set in, one remaining survivor boiled with rage. Seeing his entire squad wiped out in mere seconds, his raw fear instantly turns to pure rage. Desperation takes over, forcing him to charge blindly straight into the line of fire. Absolutely furious at how things turned out, the thug decides to grab Fondon. He wants to drag him away, maybe to keep him safe or exploit him as a hostage. A massive crimson sphere suddenly forms around the loyal assistant. This crimson aura dulls incoming attacks, wrapping him in solid protection. With no strength left to dodge, Fondon feels a quiet sense of peace. Those kids are safe, that is all that matters to him. A soft smile touches his lips as he silently thanks the heavens above. But right on cue, our main character bursts onto the scene. He steps up to protect his ally, targeting the deadly energy head-on. As Fondon watches in total shock, Lucas unleashes his full power. He intends to shatter this threat completely. Powering up, he channels his magic with pinpoint accuracy. Tears stream down Fondon's face as the overwhelming sense of relief hits him. Thank goodness the children and their caretaker are finally out of danger. When the thug looks up and sees this young kid standing there, he is absolutely stunned that his massive fireball was just completely blocked. This disrespect drives him totally wild, making him lash out blindly again. Yet the rogue mage still manages to fire off a deadly ice spell. He is desperately trying to regain control of this chaotic fight. Realizing this guy won't quit, Lucas decides to end it right now. He lets the enemy know that his run ends here and there is no escape. Gathering every ounce of his massive power, Lucas delivers a crushing blow. The sheer force leaves nothing behind where the bandit once stood. Only his terrified horse remains, frantically trying to escape the aftermath. The frightened animal bolts, leaving a sudden, heavy silence in the clearing. Lucas calmly turns around, while Fondon just stares at him in complete disbelief. His mind is racing with endless questions about the crazy power he just saw. He is utterly blown away by how easily Lucas handled a high-tier opponent. Defeating a seasoned mage with such raw, effortless skill is just unheard of. Still, the shock of it all is almost too much to process. He keeps rubbing his eyes, trying to comprehend the sheer scale of this kid's strength. But wait, because their troubles are far from over. A bizarre sound echoes from behind them, making the air grow heavy. Suddenly, a strange mass begins clawing its way up from the dirt. It is a grotesque creature neither of them has ever encountered. Fear and curiosity grip them instantly, both men freeze. They have only one question: what on earth is that? Before they can react, the massive beast fully emerges and lets out a roar. Its terrifying shrieks rattle their bones, pushing the tension to a breaking point. Even though they do not know what this nightmare is capable of, Lucas instantly drops into a defensive stance. He is ready to do whatever it takes to shield his injured companion. With every step the beast takes, its screams grow louder, spreading pure dread. The tension only grew thicker, forcing everyone to watch it warily. Keeping his eyes locked on the beast, the young man tried to figure out what kind of creature this was and the threat it posed to everyone. As the creature closed the distance, Lucas realized he absolutely did not want his little sister seeing this nightmare. Now, he had to destroy it immediately. Before his family got hurt, suddenly the beast lunged to grab the young fighter with its sharp claws, but he ducked just in time, narrowly dodging the strike and keeping his composure. Right after, he countered with a heavy strike meant to put the monster down and shield the others, yet Lucas was pretty shocked by the beast's raw power, proving to be way tougher than he anticipated. Without warning, the creature retaliated with a brutal flurry of wild deadly strikes forcing the onlookers back in terror. Then something truly bizarre happened. The massive beast started digging through the dead bandits, picking up their remains to inspect them, sending a collective shiver down everyone's spine. Next, the spectators noticed the beast was growing visibly stronger by the second. No one could predict its next move, right near its glowing eye. A bizarre brand pulsed, making the creature look infinitely more sinister. Lucas had a grim theory that ominous mark was likely. A sigil of necromancy, channeling the brute's unbelievable dark power. Nobody knew what the abomination was planning, or how much blood it wanted to spill. Even though it had already torn the camp apart, it was still hunting for more living flesh to butcher. Stopping at nothing, realizing simple physical attacks were useless, the young master switched to a deadlier approach to end this threat, but the tireless beast kept charging forward, pushing its speed and power to overwhelm the boy's defenses. As the gap closed, Lucas threw a quick succession of precise strikes to weaken its stance and keep his allies safe. Yet the closer he got, the heavier the monster's suffocating pressure weighed on him. To finish this once and for all, Lucas unleashed his ace in the hole, the devastating aura explosion technique. The air detonated under the weight of that single massive blast. The beast was thrown clear across the clearing, losing its footing completely. Yet even as it crashed, a twisted, mocking grin spread across its face, showing it was far from beaten. Once the dust finally settled, Lucas dragged his exhausted body back toward the camp, desperate for rest. Collapsing onto a patch of dry grass, the tired fighter sat back and tried to steady his racing heart. He let out a long, heavy sigh. Right then, a soft voice called out, as his little sister ran up to him with wide, worried eyes. Seeing Julia unharmed sent a wave of pure relief washing over him. She was safe. He pulled her into a tight, grateful hug. As she happily squealed, "You were so cool out there." They managed to defeat every single bandit, protecting everyone nearby, but right after the chaos settled, Fondin approached the kids to ask what happened. He wanted the complete truth to ensure they were safe, but soon strange scraping noises echoed again, coming from the dark, shadowy corners. Everyone froze, on guard and ready for whatever was coming. A horse appeared on the horizon, a completely unrecognized beast that drew every eye. It looked bizarre, almost ghostly. Slumped on its back was a girl, slumped over, totally lost in her own deep thoughts. She stared blankly, drifting away, as if in another world entirely. But as the beast fully emerged from the bushes, they all gasped. The poor young lady was tied up, terrified and helpless. She opened her eyes, shocked to find a strange crowd standing right in front of her, watching closely. Meanwhile, deep in the dungeon, something sinister was brewing, spreading a heavy, suffocating pressure. The walls seemed alive, as if an invisible force was waking up. A twisted creature sat on the throne, whispering that 44 was dead. A chilling smile spread across his face, as if this was all a game. For now, the beast had one main goal: regain its power, rebuild its ancient strength, becoming a nightmare for all who oppose. Meanwhile, despite the midnight hour and her extreme exhaustion, Julia asked her companion if her real name was actually Miarosta. That name sounded familiar to Lucas, though he couldn't quite remember where from. A phantom memory tickled his mind, touching a long-forgotten past of his. Julia felt it too, that same eerie, familiar spark igniting inside her. It was like a long-forgotten name, locked away deep in her own memories. Then our young hero remembered something. The Rasta and Ryan families lived near the city of Daku. This brought back old memories. But another question was bothering Julia. She had to ask Maya how she got caught by those thugs and why it happened. So suddenly, as they spoke, heavy tears welled in her eyes. Maya was completely overwhelmed, a sudden rush of painful emotions crushing her. She was utterly shattered, bewildered by the sheer tragedy, sobbing uncontrollably. The fragile girl recounted the horror. Just a few hours ago, a brutal gang of bandits suddenly ambushed her royal carriage. She was left terrified, utterly helpless in the chaos. What she said next was even worse, pure nightmare fuel. Those monsters slaughtered her guards one by one, leaving her completely defenseless, and even her loyal maid tried in vain to save her, but failed, falling victim to the cold steel of bandits. She was left completely alone, stranded in extreme danger. Even though Maya claimed noble birth, those cold-hearted bastards did not care about her status, completely ignoring her desperate pleas. Only one thing mattered: They had to fulfill their dark order, totally ignoring all bloody consequences. In Maya's eyes, it was clear they had a specific purpose. They specifically targeted kids of noble blood to carry out orders, caring only about their reward, ignoring the suffering of the victims. Seeing her friends suffer, Julia tried to help. To comfort her, explaining that the vicious bandits could never harm anyone again, since they had already been wiped out. Hearing this, Lucas carefully processed the nightmare, trying to fully grasp how serious this situation was, and how they could avoid such terrifying dangers down the road. Late that very night, after an exhausting day, Fondant and Lucas sat down for dinner. The older man noted right away that the girls had already gone to rest. Leaving the house completely quiet, Lucas knew he absolutely needed to hear the opinion of the older man, hoping to understand the massive scale of these shocking events and get some much-needed advice. He was completely exhausted. Still, the loyal assistant thought very clearly. He knew this attack was no mere accident, it was monumental. Heavy consequences were coming for everyone. Lucas agreed completely. He realized these dangerous bandits possessed dark magical powers and had the terrifying ability to control the dead, making them extremely deadly. This insight from the boy surprised the man, forcing him to reconsider his entire perspective and assess the true level of danger. In his opinion, honest truth, a terrifying demon was secretly pulling all the strings, guiding them down a dark path, directly controlling the actions of the bandits and other forces. The moment the young man finished speaking, Fondant decided to report all of these events to the master. He also suggested informing the parents of Mai about this situation, so they could cooperate with the Rasta family for safety and coordination. Lucas really loved this plan and immediately decided to propose another clever idea to turn the tide of events in their favor. By the very next morning, their exhausted traveling group finally reached the grand gates of the Karmina Empire, located in the scenic Karmina region of Baku. Immediately, suggestions began to pop up about changing all of their travel plans so they could explore the city and rest up. However, keeping their overall safety in mind, the young man insisted they head straight to the academy, warning that the bandits might still be lurking in the streets. But Julia hated that idea. Though she was deeply upset by this, the little girl still listened closely as her brother carefully explained that this was purely for their protection. Hearing his reasoning, Maya fully agreed with him, quickly realizing that their safety had to come first, right? And that taking any foolish risks right now could lead to even greater danger. Even after the terrifying events of that night, Julia was still extremely upset about the fact that she could not explore the beautiful city and experience its magical atmosphere. But wait, Lucas had a brilliant and clever idea to change the situation without putting anyone in any unnecessary danger at all. Balancing caution with her wishes, listening closely, Fondant announced that they had finally entered the city limits and could now open the carriage windows to take in the clean, fresh air and view the beautiful buildings. Julia looked out with eyes that lit up instantly. These new sights made her happy, and she happily agreed with her brother to grab some quick food at the next stop to keep their energy high during this amazing journey. And honestly, it was leaving a permanent, unforgettable mark on all of their memories. It filled their hearts with pure wonder, totally blowing them away with its immense, stunning grandeur. The narrow streets and majestic, towering buildings left an incredible impression on absolutely everyone there. The sheer scale of this region was mind-blowing, officially ranked as the largest one after the capital city, boasting incredible development and scope. Its rapid growth immediately caught the eye. Even to Maya, it seemed totally fantastic, filling her with awe as its sheer beauty easily blew past all her original expectations. For an 11-year-old girl, looking out that window was a real adventure, giving her a first-hand look at the massive and gorgeous landscapes unfolding right before her very eyes. But even though the young man was a teenager now, he still couldn't hide his amazement at this gorgeous view unfolding outside. As he stared out at the bustling city below, he instantly realized that its energy felt exactly like the home he left behind back in his past life, triggering a heavy wave of old, familiar memories. Heading to Allen Academy, they made sure to stop at specific spots since Lucas wanted to keep his promise to rest, eat, and fully enjoy the entire journey. The second Julia caught a whiff of sweet pastries, she couldn't hide her sheer joy. Seriously, who could resist stopping by that amazing local pastry stand to check out the sweet treats, and fuel up before hitting the road. Again, even though they hadn't known each other long, the girls had already become close friends, happily tasting all the local snacks and sharing the moment. Together, throughout this entire journey, Lucas kept a super close eye on his sister to ensure she was perfectly safe, constantly checking on her mood and feelings. And while their guide Fondant couldn't accompany them any further, they happily set off on their own, with Lucas promising to protect his sister. No matter what, but in classic fashion, Julia started loudly shouting back that she would be the one protecting him from any dangerous villains, showing off some serious courage despite her young age. With a warm smile, Lucas teased that he was definitely counting on his little genius, deeply touched by her fierce loyalty and eagerness to help in any tough situation. Watching them so closely, Fondant was incredibly touched by their sweet dynamic and how the siblings constantly supported each other in every little thing. But what totally shocked Maya was seeing this older guy get defended by his tiny little sister who showed such insane determination and raw bravery. Anyway, setting off on their journey, the young group eagerly anticipated the epic adventures ahead, opening up brand new horizons and hoping for thrilling experiences along the way. It was honestly fascinating for Maya to watch these two siblings interact, trading jokes and showing genuine care for one another, which filled her with admiration and brought a smile to her face. Putting all past drama aside, Miarosta was just happy to make new friends and hang out with amazing people who made her feel safe and supported. Eagerly looking forward to their next adventures together, the young girl dreamed of all the wild, unforgettable moments ahead. Shared experiences with her brand new friends. That evening after their stroll, Fondant recalled a crucial detail and decided to tell Lucas, hoping it would help him make sense of everything and the wild events happening around them. Years ago, when Maya and Lucas were kids, they grew up side by side as an absolutely beautiful pair. She was even his promised fiancée, an incredibly deep bond shattered. The royal arrangement lay in ruins. The gods had turned their backs, refusing to grant the boy any magical spark. All expectations were utterly crushed. Soon, the big day arrived when Julia and Lucas arrived for their exam at the prestigious Allen Magic Academy, located in the southern district of Daku. It is a legendary institution widely known for its brutal standards, no exceptions. By school decree, every hopeful freshman must pass a test to prove their worth and secure their spot within these elite walls. Based on their scores, applicants get sorted into different elemental houses, like the divisions of earth, fire, water, and air. Those who survive all 6 arduous years will officially earn the legendary title of mage. But wait, the school loudspeaker suddenly blasts a massive loophole. Any student with truly monstrous talent would receive highly unique privileges, speeding up their graduation. For instance, if any student can pass the official mage certification exam early in their studies, they can graduate immediately, skipping the standard 6 years of schooling entirely. Walking across the busy courtyard after hearing the rules, Lucas noticed his sister looking quite downcast and tried to find out the source of her sudden sadness. Honestly, Julia wanted to take her exams right alongside Maya. She wanted to test her own limits and have her close friends' encouragement during these intense trials. But in the end, Maya went into the testing hall flanked by her parents. They provided her with absolute safety and emotional support during the test. To lift her spirits, Lucas smiled warmly at her. If they both pass these exams, they will end up in the exact same class and see each other daily. But first, they must keep their eyes completely on the upcoming test. Giving up? Absolutely not. She confidently marched forward with her brother to find the main registration counter, completely determined. She was ready to start a whole new chapter. Once she and her brother located the desk, the surrounding crowd immediately started whispering about the girl. Nobody believed such a young kid was actually trying to enroll here. Whispers also turned to Lucas as the moment the two siblings arrived, all eyes locked on them. Can you blame them? Massive curiosity, but before they could even look around and figure out where to go, someone stepped in their path. As they were searching for the sign-up table, Mina, the powerful vice president of the Academy Student Council, suddenly blocked their way. Her primary goal was to figure out if Julia and Lucas were actually intruders trespassing on the Academy grounds. Staring at Mina in shock, the siblings Young lady explained they had traveled there together for the entrance exams and were definitely not strangers on school grounds. Hearing Julia's explanation, the student leader was completely stunned. She simply could not believe she was talking to candidates invited directly to the academy's elite class trials. Without hesitation, the vice president forced a polite smile to hide her shock, keeping the conversation flowing smoothly. Then Mina asked her next crucial question. Was this girl truly the daughter of the prestigious Ryan family, and did she carry official proof of her status? Julia was absolutely stunned, because she never expected any of these students to recognize her name or speak to her so directly. Avoiding any answers, Mina quickly offered to lead them to the registration desk herself to speed up the process and avoid any annoying delays. But as they started moving, Julia noticed Mina had completely ignored Lucas, so she quickly spoke up for him. The student leader realized her mistake, admitting she had forgotten about him, then asked if Lucas Ryan was truly entering the combat arts department. She openly wondered if he could even survive the brutal trial. It was hard for the onlookers to believe that anyone still cared about physical combat arts anymore, let alone traveling this far to study them. After all, most applicants enrolling in the academy's prestigious magic departments look down on fighters, believing magic reigns supreme. Masters, and honestly, these arrogant mages consider martial artists to be nothing but weaklings with worthless skills. They are deemed completely unfit to face any serious trial. Jeremy, for instance, was considered a weakling. His physical skills simply fell short compared to the magic talent of other students. Everyone believed that defeating monsters without magic was totally impossible. Yet these physical fighters are easily equal to masters in strength and agility. To our protagonist, these elite mages look like insects. If it weren't for his parents' past kindness, he would not even bother showing up here. Once Julia firmly reminded her that they were here as a team, Mina froze up, completely speechless. Letting out a heavy sigh, the student realized she had spoken way too soon and created an awkward mess. Now she had no idea how to fix it. Moving fast, the vice president quickly turned to Lucas to explain the registration process in full detail, ensuring no mistakes were made. Despite the awkward start, she promised to personally guide the young man to the arena. Once his paperwork was finalized, to Lucas, this girl was surprisingly decent. She did not treat him like garbage, so he politely offered his thanks. Once they finished the forms, Mina pointed out the submission desk and handed over their official candidate badges. Following her directions, Lucas and his sister pinned the numbered badges to their chests before heading toward the massive testing hall. According to the strict academy rules, every single applicant must survive 3 grueling phases. First up is the energy potential measurement, followed by testing their compatibility with the elemental spirits. Only those who survive these tests will face the final combat trial. Could test their highly destructive spells using a training mannequin. But there was another strict rule. Every applicant faced the exact same test, regardless of their chosen department. To Lucas, this made absolutely no sense. It did nothing to create fairness, and organizers seemed totally blind to the need for a separate martial arts exam after. So he simply played along. Instead, he decided to quiet down and focus on the upcoming challenge. He planned to show off a little to silence those who doubted his path. Time to prove martial arts mattered. At the testing grounds, applicants gathered. They each had to touch the magical light to measure power. An examiner stepped down from the stage. He stared directly at Lucas. The man squinted, trying to sense some hidden depth in the boy. Suddenly, his eyes widened in pure, unadulterated surprise. This was a legendary phenomenon seen once in 1,000 years. It shattered every rule of magic. When Lucas walked up, the whole room held its breath. His registered magical potential was a flat 0. The crowd whispered in mockery, but Lucas remained perfectly calm. He was already used to this treatment. Right after him, his younger sister Julia stepped up. She stood before the magical light, ready. When she touched the glass, the device began to glow with intensity. A bright purple glow burst forth, stunning everyone. One examiner gasped out loud, completely stunned by her result. That meant an elite 7 out of 10. This made her one of the absolute strongest candidates. Now check this out. Lucas just watched their reaction with a smirk. He looked at Julia and nodded. She received his silent message and knew she did not need to hide. With newfound confidence, she prepared to unleash everything. She focused entirely on pushing her power to the absolute limit. As she pressed her hands closer, the light responded. The sphere flared up with a blinding, incredibly intense white brilliance. The sudden flash of light dazzled everyone in the room. A heavy, mystical energy filled the entire hall. Nobody expected a young girl to do this. The lead tester froze in disbelief as her power level spiked. It was a golden glow, 9 out of 10. The academy staff remembered a similar genius from 2 years ago. However, that older student was nothing compared to this young girl. Her raw talent was truly terrifying to witness. As she stepped back, she finally let out a relieved breath. Showing off her incredible abilities, as she descended, Julia immediately started calling out to her brother, catching the other applicants off guard and instantly drawing their attention to the duo. In this entire crowd, the young man was the only one who truly understood his sister's legendary talent and immediately decided to back her up, knowing she would eventually become a great mage. Nearby, 2 boys started whispering about the siblings. One of them just could not understand how she could be a genius while her brother, a complete failure. But his friend warned him to shut up because who knew what might happen if they got caught. Nobody wanted to drop the gossip, but another bystander chimed in to say it was pretty stupid to make an enemy of a genius over some loser. Honestly, our main character did not care. He ignored them. They had no idea that Julia was standing right behind them, hearing every single word. She quietly made it clear, anyone who dared trash talk her brother would regret it, reminding himself of all his grueling training to make his one big dream a reality. The boy felt a surge of pure determination to keep pushing forward on his path. All that hard work helping his sister develop her skills paid off big time, because she is only 11 years old and already boasts incredibly rare abilities. The intercom blared once more, announcing the start of the second phase of the exam, which would go down inside the spirit hut with the next challenge set. The siblings confidently stepped forward, ignoring the whispers of the crowd around them, and calmly readied themselves for what lay ahead. The upcoming trial brings them to the grand testing hall, where hopeful students have gathered and are already prepping to show off their magical skills, the elemental spirits assisting with the test were floating around the grounds as the applicants nervously prepared to control their magic and show what they could do. The sudden arrival of these spirits instantly gripped everyone in the yard, leaving them completely awestruck by their immense magical presence. To our youngest contender, these legendary beasts felt completely out of a fantasy book, sparking both sheer admiration and a touch of nervous excitement, grinning from ear to ear. The young girl watched the spirits intently, marveling at their extraordinary, beautiful magic, then absolute shock. Suddenly, every single elemental spirit floated right toward Julia, proof of her incredible compatibility with all the magical entities in the room, even to her own brother. She was clearly the most gifted person in the entire hall, blowing past everyone's wild expectations. You see, the special skills her brother had engineered, that famous magic meridian technique, safely unlocked his sister's hidden potential. Only level 2 didn't matter. It was plenty to pass this exam. Julia scored a record-breaking 9.6, the absolute best result among all the candidates, yet the young girl suddenly felt a bit overwhelmed despite her incredible talent that usually drew so much attention. All eyes were locked onto her, and everybody wanted to be her friend. Utterly captivated by her crazy talent and cute personality, feeling all those intense stares, Julia immediately sprinted back to her big brother and hugged him tight, finding comfort and safety in the one person she trusted most. After all, having Lucas wanted his sister to feel completely safe. He did his best to create a supportive, calm environment. In reality, though, Julia felt incredibly uncomfortable under those intense stares, feeling incredibly tense and awkward under everyone's watchful eyes. Trying to reassure her, the young man gently explained that she was an absolute genius in the making, who would only face these kinds of looks more frequently with each passing day. To Lucas, she should completely ignore their noisy opinions and focus on doing what she actually loved with all her heart. In the end, the young lady readily agreed with him, determined to gain crucial experience, valuable training so she could easily defend her brother in the near future. It surprised the Young man that his sister cared so much about their random opinions, so he decided to actively help her become a much more confident and courageous person. When he walked past, whispers started up once more, though he did not seem to care or pay them any mind. Honestly, no one in the crowd understood why Lucas had even bothered to apply to this elite academy with such terribly low combat skills, and fell way below their standards. Interestingly, our hero had not tested his compatibility yet, leaving his upcoming result a guess. But then came the very second stage, where the magical spirits actively tried to flee from Lucas the very second he walked in, leading some onlookers to believe that the creatures found his aura entirely repulsive, as they kept discussing this entire trial. The exam, and one applicant sensed that something very bizarre had actually happened. Something completely baffling, according to this student. The moment Lucas walked away, the fire spirit almost completely faded out. His aura completely overpowered the beast. Another student suggested that because the spirits were so incredibly tiny, their panic could easily go completely unnoticed by the distracted crowd. Nobody else caught the weird shift. What had happened to the flame? This gossip immediately caught Lucas's interest, making him ponder what exactly was going on, and oh, it gets crazier. Without realizing a single thing, our hero had absolutely no clue that during his test, some hidden witness had been quietly watching his every move. Back in test 1, Lucas noticed something weird. A highly unusual detail that kept making him question everything. He got the distinct feeling that the fire spirit absolutely and utterly despised his presence. Yet he could not pinpoint the reason, which left him feeling pretty anxious. Acting up constantly, it completely ruined his focus. It made things nearly impossible, and right as the exam ended and he turned to leave the room, the spirit unexpectedly spat a burst of fire straight at him. Only a severe, hidden insult could have triggered that kind of hostile behavior from the magical creature, triggering its sudden rage. But here is the real secret. He was actually holding a tiny, almost invisible stone that did not draw any attention from the surrounding crowd. The fire spirit had spotted that small stone in his hands and taken massive, immediate offense at him, resulting in that hostile display right in front of the examiners. It deeply offended our hero that a divine creature would act so poorly. In public, gently taking his sister by the hand, he prepared himself for whatever came next. The siblings set off together for the final stage of the exam, ready to face the last test and show everyone what they can do, despite all the previous hardships. Lucas asks Julia if she can take first place once again, the final round, and repeat her success. The most important thing for the young girl was her brother's safety, while Lucas resolved to protect his little sister from any incoming danger. The final test takes place in the Hall of Destructive Magic, where applicants must unleash their raw power and maintain absolute control. Metal mannequins stand scattered throughout the entire room to serve as targets and test their offensive magical output. As Lucas and Julia make their way to the testing grounds, they hear whispers. People are gossiping again, and you just know it's about to cause trouble. Turns out some of the other students are bitter that a little girl claimed the top ranks, so they take out their frustration directly on the training targets. Strangely, Julia notices the boys seem more worried about the equipment than their actual performance. This target is built from a reinforced alloy, meaning it can survive almost any strike short of a high-tier curse. To Lucas, this gear looks incredibly tough, fully prepared to take a massive beating during the trial. For our main character, this serves as his golden opportunity to test his 6th level magic and show off his true combat mastery. Honestly, Lucas loves being at the academy and using these high-tech systems. They make training incredibly exciting, but suddenly a loud voice cuts through the hall, telling everyone to stop cutting the line. An arrogant girl begins barking orders at them, commanding people where to stand and demanding they wait their turn, stirring up tension in the crowded room. Trying to assess the situation, Julia quietly watches this aggressive newcomer and studies her rude behavior before things kick off. For now, she just watches from afar, analyzing her opponent's next move. But as she gets a closer look at the girl's features, a sudden realization hits Julia hard, sending a wave of anxiety through her chest. Despite the shouting echoing around her, the arrogant student stands firm, watching the crowd with a cold gaze. That is when Eva Miranda spots Julia and begins studying the little girl with intense, calculated curiosity. Stepping forward, Iva closes the distance, intending to strike up a conversation to test her. Her sudden question about Julia's mana compatibility immediately terrifies the young girl, leaving her completely flustered and unsure. It is not just the blunt question, but Iva's menacing stare. That sends a shiver of raw fear straight down her spine. Terrified, Julia whispers to her brother that the girl is super scary, and that she is terrified, seeking immediate comfort from him. Cowering behind Lucas, the 11-year-old girl is far too frightened to utter single word. For Lucas, it is vital to analyze the entire situation before making any moves, ensuring they do not make a careless mistake. He must act cautiously against such an arrogant opponent. The arrogant girl proudly introduces herself as the Emperor's own granddaughter. Her name is Iva Merinda, and her elite family lives in one of the 3 great northern estates, wielding a massive level of influence that high status. Decades ago, a legendary mage emerged from this line, completely securing their endless fame throughout the entire empire. Even her mother, Kyria Ketrin, hailed from this incredibly prestigious family, which naturally gave her immense authority and respect in society. Lucas quickly realizes that Iva is actually the daughter of his uncle, Sina Merinda, so he asks her age, hoping for a nice conversation. No way, the hostile girl snaps back at his friendly questions. Coldly spitting out that she is 15, Lucas calmly tells the young lady not to glare so fiercely, gently reminding her that they are actually cousins. Liar, she refuses to believe him and instantly plots to humiliate him. Humiliate him in public. Iva's eyes flare up with pure anger, mixed with a strong sense of curiosity about this strange boy and his crazy claims. Suddenly, she secretly channels her magic, trying to force him to dance like a fool in front of the crowd. Lucas just smiles. He has absolutely no clue what she is planning to do, since neither he nor his sister have done anything wrong to her. But wait for it, her mind-bending spell completely fails to affect him. Absolutely nothing happens. She instantly flies into a silent, frustrated rage, or she completely loses her cool. What really amuses Lucas is that she actually tried using a direct mind control spell on her newly met relatives. He openly wonders what kind of terrible parenting she received in the Merinda household, thinking her high-tier spell could actually manipulate a literal martial arts master and bend him to her whim. Next, the announcer calls Lucas Ryan to take his final exam, and he steps forward. Game time, he walks into the hall to show his skills. Once Lucas leaves, Iva approaches Julia again, determined to cause trouble. Pure malice, she demands that the quiet girl step down right now. 11-year-olds stay in her place, since only the Emperor's granddaughter is meant to take first place on this exam. But when Lucas checks the latest Academy scoreboard, he notices that Iva is sitting in second place, with Julia sitting comfortably in first. It is clear that his cousin is declaring war is officially declared. To protect their quiet life, Lucas will do anything to keep his sister at the absolute top of the academy. Later, Lucas pulls out a special piece of sweet candy, offering it to Julia because he knows she loves treats. She looks at it curiously, wondering what special surprise her brother prepared for her during this quick recess. He hopes this little treat will calm her nerves and make her feel much more relaxed and confident before the upcoming trial. But as she bites down, she realizes it is actually incredibly bitter medicine. Total betrayal, he lied right to her face. She instantly starts coughing as the awful taste fills her entire mouth. Lucas leans in close, quietly explaining that it is a powerful recovery elixir. These were crafted from rare ingredients, and Julia would soon witness their effects firsthand. Despite his last promise, she refused to believe. Instead, she broke down in tears. Meanwhile, Lucas confidently stepped forward. He was ready to face the exam and show them his absolute best. Every single skill, every bit of mastery, he would show it all. Step Up, an organizer, ordered Lucas to strike the mannequin with absolute force. They wanted him to hit it hard so they could calculate the impact. That would determine his score. The examiner calmly told him to begin. But Lucas just stood there. He calmly said he could not use magic. Wait, what? The organizer was completely baffled by this bizarre response. He tried to understand. Then Lucas asked if he could just punch it. He wanted to pass the test using raw strength alone, zero magic. The other applicants waiting nearby couldn't believe what they were hearing. Was he really going to destroy it by hand? To them, relying on physical martial arts seemed incredibly barbaric. Overhearing this nasty gossip, Julia felt a sudden rush of absolute fury. Her heart raced, she could barely hold back her explosive anger. She had to behave, her brother had strictly requested it. That was her one rule, she forced herself to keep her emotions locked down. Ava curiously asked if Julia's brother really lacked magic. After all, her own spell had absolutely zero effect on him. But to Julia, he remained amazing regardless of magical power. His kind actions and sincere behavior proved his true character. Still, most believed raw physical strength could never truly defeat magic. But she knew better, Lucas would easily handle any challenge. Suddenly everyone stared at the monitor, shock painted her face. She couldn't believe the wild scene before her eyes. Even the mages couldn't understand what they were looking at. They were completely speechless. On the screen, the passing students appeared. One by one, they proudly showed off their final exam scores. But look back just 2 minutes prior, because that is where it gets crazy. That was when Lucas asked to strike the mannequin without magic. The exam rules were simple. Any method of attack was completely legal. They could fight however they wanted, and Lucas fully understood this. He stepped up, ready to showcase his true strength. He focused entirely on his abilities, locking onto his target. Every 3 levels, his flash skills gained massive speed. He knew this gave him an insane advantage. Now at the 6th level, the surge of power felt unreal. He was ready, this trial would be his absolute playground. This was his moment to show everyone what he could really do. Unleashing his full force, he prepared to shock the crowd. He was about to deliver a masterclass in pure power. He channeled everything into one single, devastating hit. The sheer impact blasted the mannequin away, showcasing his truly absurd strength. Precision of his technique, as the exam tool lay on the ground, a strong current. Surged from it, it was active, dangerous energy, without. Even realizing his test was done, he kept staring at the mannequin. He needed to judge his own power. Lucas's speed was on par with wind magic. The dummy glowed gold, meaning the strike hit the rank of a curse. Everyone saw it, quite shocking. Ava, watching nearby, was the only one in the room who saw through the boy's actual power and realized what he could do. Staring closely at Lucas, Ava noticed a few subtle movements, showing that he wanted to hide his real skills. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone actually broke the testing mannequin to get a massive score. Yet even then, the young man did not clear away the shattered pieces of the machine that magic could easily clear. Up on the screen, along with the final results, he waved happily to his sister to celebrate his success. The test was passed. Hearing her brother's incredible score, Julia felt absolutely thrilled, while Lucas quietly slipped away to avoid any unwanted spotlight and keep his powers hidden. As the exams continued, fewer and fewer students noticed his destructive power, but one specific tense moment still had everyone holding their breath when it was Julia's turn to take her test. Her genius talent and flawless control stunned the entire room. She stood completely focused on her main goal, pouring every ounce of her concentration into a single point. Suddenly, a strange phenomenon began to unfold around her, drawing gasps of pure awe from the crowd. Unleashing a massive lightning strike, Julia showed off her incredible magical control. She channeled all that surging energy directly at the target dummy to prove how devastating and precise her magic could be, leaving everyone completely speechless at her sheer mastery. The crimson bolt she used was second in power only to the highest gold-tier level strike, proving once again why lightning magic is hailed as the ultimate offense. With raw skills like that, any student could easily secure top-tier scholarships. But then something completely unexpected caught the nearby classmate off guard. Right in the middle of the test, Julia's legs suddenly gave out, yet she still managed to pull off a complex, flawless maneuver. This bizarre twist shocked even Julia, who sat on the ground staring in total disbelief. As the dust finally settled, she scored 9.5 points, landing the highest score in the group. Julia immediately went to share her deepest fears with her brother, having been terrified by that crimson magic. Before this, her peak power could only summon weak purple lightning, which left her feeling deeply unsettled and doubting her own magical path. Wondering whether she should tell her sister about it, she hesitated for a long time, trying to figure out how it would affect her and if it would harm their close relationship before making a final decision. Thanks to the Candy Lucas had secretly given Julia. She received a temporary boost in power and was able to feel much stronger. In this fantasy world, powerful mages and martial arts masters possess alchemical abilities to craft incredible potions to boost their strength. The real difference between mages and martial artists is simple. Mages brew magical potions, while martial artists craft alchemical elixirs. Those potions require special items to activate, whereas elixirs can just be swallowed directly. Long ago, many medicines were developed, but after a massive disaster, martial arts completely took over. Learning alchemy became incredibly rare. Today, most high-tier masters can only craft simple potions to store mana, like Julia's current booster. But making real elixirs requires reaching the 6th level of alchemy, because only then do you unlock those highly complex recipes and stable, legendary formulas. Right now, only one other person besides Lucas can actually pull this off. And that is the powerful Imperial Minister and sole 9th level martial arts master. We are talking about Duke Retz, whom even powerful mages bow to just to get those mana-storing potions. Lucas knows that if everyone found out about his skills, it would trigger absolute chaos, so he decides to keep a low profile. For now, his power stays hidden. Once the grueling exams finally end, the siblings sit down together to catch their breath and wait for the official results, so they can get their class assignments and finally crash at the dorms. But their peaceful break is cut short when someone calls them over. It is one of the student officers tasked with delivering the final results. She holds their destiny on a sheet of paper. Mina is completely prepared to read the scores out loud to the waiting crowd, so everyone can find their placement. This sudden meeting catches Lucas off guard, making him pretty anxious. She quickly explains that she only came, noting that she is just delivering the scores class by class. Then she drops big news: they both secured the top spots in the elite martial arts class. Julia is absolutely thrilled, beaming with pride over locking down first place. That top spot is all hers, even though the siblings are split up into different branches. They both got exactly what they worked so hard for. Their hard work paid off. Now, once students reach their 2nd year, they get to pick their permanent specialization and move to their chosen faculty. Here at Allen Academy, they offer 5 paths: fire, water, earth, wind, plus a highly secretive special one. But during their 1st year, placements are strictly decided by these test scores. Thinking about Mina's advice, Julia decides on the path that fits her perfectly: the wind faculty. The student council representative is practically glowing with joy. Talk about a proud upperclassman. She had been waiting for classes, thrilled to watch her peers succeed. With the scores settled, the girls make their way over to the female dorms to finally settle in and shake off all that exam stress. Lucas only asks them for one small favor: keep a close eye on his sister, while he heads over to the martial arts building. Meanwhile, other students crowd round the bulletin board, and absolutely nobody is surprised to see who topped the list. Julia Ryan secured 1st place, making the rest of the freshmen look like ordinary hard workers next to a total, standout natural genius. The battle ended in a loss for Ivy, but she silently vows she will. As Lucas approaches the marshal, looking at the arts department dorm, Lucas realized Allen Academy simply did not care. They ignored these students, but after searching forever, the young man finally secured a spot and could actually move into the dormitory, except the place was in absolutely terrible condition. The walls were completely cracked, the floors were incredibly rickety, and the roof looked ready to cave in at any second. It was basically a safety hazard. Still, Lucas was just glad to have his own private space where he could finally live in peace and no one would bother him. Suddenly, another student from the department approached Lucas and asked him if he really was the top dog who had taken 1st place in the entrance rankings. The talkative classmate was named Kai DeRoy, and he was set on studying and living right next to Lucas, thinking they could help each other out and adapt to academy life a lot faster. The two clicked pretty quickly and immediately started figuring out what they needed to get their rooms sorted. To his new friend, it was incredibly cool how Lucas had earlier sent that training mannequin flying across the room. But Lucas honestly just thought he got lucky. Right then, the dorm supervisor cut in to tell them their room was up on the 2nd floor. Tossing them the keys, grabbing them, the 2 boys headed off to find their new space, pretty excited to be roommates and support one another. Chatting away, they were so distracted that they almost missed Room number 205, realizing they had finally arrived. Opening the door, the young men realized that two other students were already living there, meaning they would have to get along and share the cramped space together. Their new roommates turned out to be Helena and Sharp, who seemed genuinely happy to welcome some fresh faces. But for a guy like Kai, the actual living conditions were incredibly important. He wanted to make sure his new room was actually comfortable. Unfortunately, the first look inside left both of them completely speechless. And honestly, can you blame them? The place was an absolute disaster. Nobody knew why it was so trashed. This was totally unacceptable for Kai, who was used to the finest luxury and top-tier comfort back at his family estate. Freaked out by a single spider, Kai could not understand how his roommates could survive in this dump. Without even flinching, right then it became painfully clear to the other students that this guy was a pampered noble, the exact kind of high-maintenance pain in the neck, who would drive everyone crazy. But suddenly, Kai pulled out a handful of gold coins, waving them around to grab their attention and spark some curiosity. With a smug grin, the young noble casually went on to explain that he would give these coins to anyone willing to clean up their messy room. Watching his new wealthy roommate casually toss around a massive fortune that easily exceeded the monthly salary of an ordinary worker just for some basic cleaning, Lucas instantly knew this guy was indeed the heir of the Teroi family, one of the three legendary noble houses of the north. Still, it was pretty shocking for a highborn young noble to face such horrible living conditions at the prestigious Allen Academy, of all places. Provide a decent education and living arrangements, convinced that he could still manage without it, Kai had no idea another spider had appeared right before him. Again, even after scrubbing, the room was still crawling with arachnids, which one roommate absolutely despised and found extremely uncomfortable. After a while, the roommates walked back in and saw the spotlessly clean room shining. It looked so good they were seriously impressed. As promised, Kai held out his hand full of coins, explaining this was their reward and he would protect them from now on, delighted with their hard-earned reward. The boys grinned from ear to ear, feeling the sweet satisfaction of hard work and that nice tired feeling after heavy cleaning. The only thing Kai understood about his new roommate was that, although he was no priest, he was definitely the god of wealth on the continent of Arcus. Suddenly, the commandant entered the room, dropping off their uniforms so they could get ready for the start of classes. As the students inspected the gear, the man announced that the opening ceremony was about to start in the main hall. They had to change immediately and head right over. When, honestly, looking at his uniform, Kai thought it was a complete rag. Wearing it would make him look sloppy and cheap. In Lucas's opinion, the academy would explain the cheap uniforms at the ceremony. But it seemed the school had a system for reviewing student complaints so they could try asking to improve their conditions. One roommate added that maybe they could at least swap these uniforms for something more comfortable and presentable. Once everyone was dressed, they headed down to the hall to join the orientation ceremony, meeting the academy's staff and their new classmates. Arriving at the massive hall, everyone slowly found their seats while staring at the grand scale and decor. The place looked incredibly spacious, impressing them with its sheer size. For some, the room felt completely luxurious, while others found it surprisingly cozy and familiar. For the first time, Kai wanted to search the crowd to find his sister, making sure she was safe and had not gotten lost. Julia was fine. She sat with the elite class in the front rows, watching the ceremony intently. One of the students, Alan, noticed the elite class uniform looked completely different from the martial arts faculty uniform, immediately telling his roommate that if he wanted to talk to Julia, he had to go right now. Seeing she was fine and looked great in her outfit, Kai decided they should just take their seats. Their martial arts class seats were located far from the stage, and the overall attitude toward their department left a lot to be desired. Once everyone sat down, Kai spotted a girl from his class and was pretty shocked by how she looked. Then things got wild, with a highly spectacular entrance from one of the academy representatives, which immediately grabbed the attention of everyone there. A man appeared on stage inside a roaring fire, completely locking the eyes of everyone present while making the whole ceremony feel incredibly solemn. The welcome for the student crowd looked spectacular, filling the hall with a festive energy. Inside, the student council president, a brilliant future high mage named Theo, Volomit steps up to teach the freshmen about the Academy's unique grading system. The moment he appears, the crowd feels his crushing aura. It leaves an absolutely amazing impression on everyone in the room. People whisper that Theo is a genius who already reached the 6th level before even finishing his studies. Lucas quietly sizes him up, wondering about his own limits. Here at Allen Magic Academy, almost everything revolves around a point system used to grade student performance. Students can spend these points to buy rare magic skills, beasts, forbidden books, precious materials, or even private tutoring from legendary masters who teach here. There are plenty of ways to earn points around campus, but standard class assignments pay pretty badly, giving only 1 to 5 points each. The real way to get rich is by joining major events hosted by each specific faculty. Theo adds that mentoring the new freshmen is another highly profitable path for older students looking to rake in those points. Hearing this, Lucas finally realizes why Mina was acting so sweet to his sister and taking care of her during her studies. Meanwhile, another sweet perk for the new kids is joining the student council for a steady, reliable income. Of course, there are much riskier ways to earn points, methods that could easily make or break their grades. Speaking of high risk, one major option involves hunting wild monsters lurking near the campus grounds. Theo explains it pretty simply. Behind the academy stands a rugged mountain packed with dangerous magical beasts, and if you bring back raw materials from those hunts, you earn serious points. Hearing this, Lucas immediately starts plotting out his next major move. He knows exactly what to do. To him, this wild mountain range is the ultimate training ground to sharpen his survival skills. A few hours later, the welcome ceremony wraps up and the students head back to their dorm rooms, crashing after an exhausting day. Back in Lucas's room, a single candle slowly flickers, casting a warm, cozy glow over the quiet space, but he is not planning to sleep. He lights a special silence incense, putting his roommates into a deep sleep, so he can safely slip out and hunt on the wild mountain alone. Knowing the martial arts building sits right behind the academy, his route is crystal clear. He steps into the shadows to begin his late-night training. To reach the monster-infested mountain, Lucas must clear the massive stone wall behind the dorms. Testing out a fresh, untried movement technique, he manages to scale the obstacle effortlessly. Moving at a blinding speed, he reaches the other side of the campus, feeling a sharp rush of adrenaline. Executing the difficult maneuver perfectly, the young cultivator glides toward the dark mountain, completely in control. He is closing in on his target. Free at last, Lucas keeps sprinting at full speed, racing straight toward the dark mountain peak. Monsters. It did not take long before Lucas spotted his first target. A magic beast roaming the mountain slopes. Suddenly, he noticed a strange horn on the creature and decided to grab it right away, taking a direct shot at some quick materials and points. The moment he grabbed the horn with his bare hands, the beast collapsed to the dirt and went completely still. It was dead, but then Lucas noticed something strange. A limb was missing, making him wonder what kind of terrifying monster had done this to it. The beast he crossed paths with was a giant horned toad, marking his very first successful hunt on the rugged slopes. Once he claimed the creature's venomous horn, he remembered its high value. It was used for brewing potions, which meant a ton of easy points. Rumor said the Allen Academy kept a legendary library of secret martial arts. Naturally, the young man wanted to buy the martial god's skill. Talk about a massive climb, and Lucas was running out of time. He needed to find his targets immediately. Mapping out his prey was key to a successful hunt. Activating another skill, the young warrior focused all his senses, ignoring every single distraction around him. To make this happen, Lucas unleashed the Starry Eye skill, which immediately allowed him to pinpoint exactly how far away the closest monster was lurking. The next target he tracked down was a level 1 shelled rat. Catching the creature completely off guard, Lucas went on the offensive, hunting for more materials and points, while closely analyzing every single move it made. Safety was key. He needed to take down as many targets as possible to maximize his points and feed his growing power. To upgrade his stats, to his surprise, he spotted a level 2 one-eyed flying mouse, crushing it within minutes for an easy batch of loot. Next was his fourth target, a level 3 fire leopard, which demanded every ounce of his focus and skill. thrilled that he had secured a massive haul of monster parts. Lucas knew he could trade them for points, saving the leftover ingredients for his alchemy practice. After resting, Lucas noticed an eerie, heavy silence settling over the mountain. Honestly, you can't blame him for worrying. Lucas immediately began sweeping the area for threats, but the nearby monsters had completely vanished from his radar. This total absence of beasts only made him more anxious. Only one explanation made sense: a massive, dominant apex predator was nearby, terrifying the weaker creatures into hiding. Wanting to confirm his theory, Lucas locked onto the threat using a tracking technique. Right away, the young warrior picked up a nearby cave. That dark cavern was clearly where the terrifying pressure was coming from, scaring off every other beast in the region. One thing was certain: there was a highly dangerous monster inside, waiting. In the pitch blackness, if his tracking skill was correct, the beast was sitting exactly 1 kilometer away, but there was a major catch. If the creature had already picked up his scent, things could get ugly. Reaching the mouth of the lair, Lucas took a deep breath and stepped inside. A massive wolf locked eyes with him, baring its razor-sharp teeth. Standing before him was a level 6 ice flame wolf, guarding its nest. Unwanted guests and ready to strike. Seeing how the beast fiercely defended its territory, Lucas immediately knew how to handle the threat and reach his goal. Both fighters carefully studied each other closely. They read every muscle, listening for movement, predicting their play. Grinning slightly, the young warrior was fully ready. This deadly clash was finally about to begin. He was not holding back, absolutely not. Lucas decided to make the very first move. Perfectly timing his strike, he had to test its limits. But this beast was ready. It would do absolutely anything to protect its home. Seizing the moment, it spat a sudden, freezing wave of absolute death. He did not see that coming. Caught completely off guard, the young fighter had absolutely no time to dodge. The frost instantly encased his entire hand. Cunning and highly intelligent, the beast always stayed one step ahead. It worked to its advantage, controlling the battlefield. Yet, even with his hand frozen, stiff and completely useless, Lucas still struck back. He refused to yield. He followed up immediately, pushing his advantage to keep the pressure on. The wolf had zero time to recover before the next heavy hit landed directly. The massive beast crashed sideways, showing just how heavy Lucas' strikes actually were. Now the injured predator had to rethink its strategy very quickly. Regretting his lack of training, Lucas realized he was unable to make sure the beast was completely defeated. But even with the beast down, Lucas knew this fight was far from over. He literally taunted it, demanding it stand back up, dragging its heavy, terribly broken body. The wolf struggled up, clearly in agony. It wobbled badly, yet its eyes never left Lucas. Exhausted but fiercely determined, the creature gathered blazing fire in its throat, waiting for an opening. Then with one explosive leap, the beast unleashed savage attack. Lucas felt his entire body shudder under the impact. The wolf stared him down with pure rage. Suddenly, everything around them exploded into a massive sea of fire, lighting up the dark night sky. Woods with an intense crimson glow. Right in the center stood the furious wolf, preparing to strike again. Its burning gaze remained locked, letting loose a deafening howl of pure agony. Its massive, trembling frame shook violently. Yet the fire of determination in its eyes never went out. Talk about a close call. Lucas barely dodged, sliding behind the beast, ready to strike, choosing to gamble everything on this next incredibly high-risk move. He gathered his remaining energy for one final devastating strike. Just as he lunged forward, the beast whipped around to face him. The massive collision sent the wolf screaming in agony. Its body shuddered as a bone-chilling howl burst forth, piercing the night with rage. Yet it refused to yield, launching another desperate, violent counterattack. Though its muscles screamed with fatigue, those red eyes stayed focused. Deciding to end this once and for all, Lucas unleashed a relentless barrage of strikes, the absolute focus in his eyes never wavering. Hit after hit pounded the beast until it was thrown backward into the dirt. He flew backward through the air, eyes wide with raw shock. Below him, the beast stayed down. It lurked on the grass, eyes burning with sheer hatred while its tense body trembled. Yet it stood ready for a bloody fight. Getting near, the young hunter realized this wolf belonged to an incredibly rare species. Its unique features looked completely different from any normal forest beast. As Lucas stepped too close, the creature grew even more aggressive, its muscles twitching. Those furious, burning eyes locked onto him, refusing to break contact for a second. Consumed by pure rage, the beast gathered two opposing elements, fire and ice. Both energies swirled inside its jaws, ready to burst out. Lucas kept his eyes glued to the monster, waiting for the perfect split second to strike. Suddenly, the wolf unleashed the dual elements, filling the air with a massive surge of power. What caught the young fighter completely off guard, though, was what happened next. Thick steam began rising from the dirt, instantly wrapping around his entire body. He shielded himself, completely baffled. Even so, he kept his guard up for the next incoming strike. The maddened wolf stood its ground, glare blazing with absolute fury. Coiling its powerful muscles, the beast was ready to tear him apart at any given second. Out of nowhere, the beast exploded forward with blinding speed, its gaze locked onto him. Its wild eyes never wavered, tracking his every single movement. Realizing the beast was trying to escape, he moved instantly to shut it down. Just in time, Lucas lunged and grabbed the runaway wolf right by its tail. Digging his heels in, he channeled every ounce of strength to pull it back. With a violent heave, the youth slammed the monster back onto the dirt. He smiled, loving the thrill of fighting a tough boss for massive experience points. But getting too cocky meant he completely missed the deadly threat coming his way. It only hit him when he caught the shift in the wolf's posture. This creature was far from done, and it was plotting something nasty. Gathering its remaining energy, the beast unleashed a heavy strike that connected perfectly. The impact launched him sideways, his feet leaving the ground as shock filled his face. Yet Lucas refused to stay down, bracing himself to end this clash. His resolve was locked in, ready to finish things once and for all. Immediately, the monster retaliated by spitting out a massive wave of fire. Scorching hot flames erupted, swallowing the entire clearing in a blinding flash. But when the smoke cleared, the boy was nowhere to be seen. The confused beast scanned the area, panicking as its target vanished entirely. Then it sensed something moving high up in the air above. It aimed upward and fired again, but Lucas was already prepared to counter. Wanting to end this with style, he dove down for a devastating blow. His crushing strike sent the wolf crashing hard back into the dirt. It writhed in pain, eyes wide with absolute shock from the impact. Lucas immediately prepped his next strike, refusing to give it any breathing room. He had to finish this off before the beast could recover its footing. The cornered beast stared up in sheer horror at the incoming finisher. Desperate to survive, the monster tried to summon one last trick. But as it scrambled to its feet, its heavily battered body staggered. It shuddered in raw pain, but those rage-filled eyes never backed down. Lucas watched closely, tracking every single twitch. He analyzed each sudden shift, bracing for whatever crazy move came next. He had no clue what was happening. The wolf behaved unpredictably, its movements becoming totally chaotic. Two glowing spheres, one red and one blue, slowly spun around him. They pulsed with energy, instantly sparking a crazy thought in his mind. These glowing orbs had to be beast cores, carrying an incredibly dangerous and wild power. Rare beasts sometimes possess these magical cores. They hold the creature's entire life energy inside them. If even a single drop of blood touches a beast core, it seals the pact. So Lucas decided to try taming the wolf as a familiar. Grinning, he realized this was a golden chance to secure an ally. Getting a 6th-level summon like this is basically hitting the absolute jackpot for him. Very few mages ever get this incredibly lucky. But normally, wild wolves do not submit easily. Powerful magical beasts almost never follow a human master willingly. Without hesitation, Lucas initiated the taming ritual. He forced his spiritual energy forward, urging the wolf to yield. Now he had to guide those two glowing elemental orbs back into the giant beast. This would finalize the contract, completely subduing its terrifying, wild strength. He pushed the glowing spheres straight into the center of its chest. A bright flash sealed the connection, binding their souls together. Suddenly, a strange voice echoed inside his mind. It addressed him as master, sounding incredibly clear and close. Lucas looked around, utterly bewildered, trying to find the source. But looking around, there was absolutely no one there. Then, a wild realization hit him. The wolf was speaking, and he understood every single word. To build their connection, Lucas needed a name. From now on, you are Yul, he declared, sealing their deep and powerful mental link. Honestly, Lucas immediately wondered what kind of loot he would get. With this entire guarded territory belonged to him now, along with all the local hunts. Yul watched his new master intently, reading his every movement. The clever creature tried to gauge the human's true thoughts. Yul was eager to prove his loyalty and cooperate completely. Yul wanted to prove to his master that he was actually an incredibly smart beast. So the wolf decided to reveal his secret stash of valuable treasures. Heading down into the darkness, the massive wolf guided his master. They walked toward the deep, hidden spot where the beast kept all his prized possessions. With every passing minute, they ventured further into the cave. The pitch-black air grew heavier and heavier as they drew closer to the hiding place. As they neared the spot, Lucas felt a bizarre tingling sensation. A wave of pure, unknown excitement gripped his entire body right before the massive reveal. His jaw dropped instantly. Laid out before him were massive bones. There were glowing gems, rare 6th-level beast hides, and an absolute fortune waiting for him. Lucas was completely astonished, but he still needed to find everything necessary. He wanted to earn extra points, but his sudden search deeply confused the beast. Lucas quickly explained that these hidden treasures did not actually belong to him. Captivated by the discovery, he did not even notice where Yul was pointing. Lying right there on the ground were beast cores, incredible quality. Most were at least 3rd level, with 2 reaching the 6th. The wolf stepped closer. Yul explained that he consumed the fire and water cores to grow stronger. To successfully level up, a beast must consume a core of equal or higher rank. This meant Yul had single-handedly defeated 2 powerful beasts, which is honestly wild. That was incredibly impressive, prompting Lucas to reward his loyal companion. He reached into his stash and handed the wolf a few more glowing orbs. Deeply pleased with his master, Yul's eyes sparkled with genuine gratitude. Lucas explained that the medicine he administered would make the wolf drowsy. Yul needed to rest while standing guard over their newly found treasures. Thrilled with this first task, the loyal wolf nodded to show his absolute devotion. Lucas knew he could fully rely on Yul's strength from now on. He stood in silence, carefully analyzing his next moves. With no time left to hunt down other magical beasts, he made a choice. Lucas decided to head back to the academy dormitory to rest. The next morning brought a fresh start with new classes and introductions. Soon, students started gathering inside the martial arts classroom. Everyone prepared for their very first lecture of the term. Lucas felt exhausted after his long night of adventures on the mountain. However, the soothing aroma of class incense helped him feel completely refreshed. Back in the cave, the playful wolf had refused to leave his side. Now the academy bell rang out, and the students waited for their instructor. Students whispered in confusion. The room remained empty. Their teacher should have been there to greet the incoming freshman class. Kai was easily the most annoyed student by this lack of punctuality. He grumbled that the academy had completely forgotten about their department. Meanwhile, Sigurd, the teacher, dragged himself down the academy hallway. His steps were incredibly heavy, and every single movement seemed a massive struggle. He barely reached the door, completely drained of energy. Inside, the students sat in confusion, unable to comprehend the delay. Something was clearly wrong with their instructor, but nobody dared speak up. The room fell into a heavy, silent tension as they watched him stumble. Clutching his head, the man announced that his name was Sigurd. He introduced himself as the head of the entire martial arts faculty. Lucas stared at him, trying to analyze the root of this bizarre behavior. The dazed instructor immediately turned to the board and wrote his name. He wanted to make sure everyone knew exactly who was running the class. After that, he slowly started taking attendance to check for missing students. From the very first glance, Kai felt a strong wave of dislike. He knew instantly that this teacher would be a nightmare to deal with. Whispering to his neighbor, Kai vented all his anger about this slob. During class, right as the boy mentioned Sigurd, a sudden strike cut him off. And he barely managed to dodge. Close call, but what really freaked Lucas out was why the teacher suddenly screamed while clutching his head. It made no sense at all. Assessing the lethal speed of the incoming object, Lucas immediately knew something was wrong with their teacher, extremely wrong. Sigurd quickly asserted his authority, no talking without permission. With that established, he promptly began checking attendance. The man called out the first name on his sheet, a girl named Tasia. She was present. The classroom fell dead silent, watching for any reaction. Next, the teacher called out Lucas, and he quickly responded. Right after speaking, Lucas immediately recognized his classmate from the opening ceremony. Boy remembered how hyped everyone was during the show, while this girl sat in total silence, completely standing out from the crowd. Snapping his notebook shut, the teacher finished roll call, straight to business. But as he tried to introduce the topic, Sigurd realized he had actually forgotten his textbooks, classic, so he appointed Tasia as the class representative, ordering her to fetch the manuals from his lab. Caught completely off guard, the poor girl panicked, her mind spun. She looked around in distress, her heart hammering against her chest. When she timidly asked if she was really chosen, the teacher simply nodded, while the rest of the class watched on. Kai was definitely not happy about this random decision, and he argued that a class leader should only be elected through a fair vote. Naturally, he believed he should be the prime candidate, due to his elite background and combat skills, but then another object came flying at his face, nearly knocking him flat on the floor. Pointing a finger at Kai, Sigurd decided to reinforce his strict rules. Glaring with an icy expression, the teacher repeated his core warning. No talking allowed under any circumstances without his direct permission. Before walking out the door, Sigurd instructed the new representative to pass out the books so everyone could study quietly. Thrilled that she had survived the entrance exams and landed this role, the young girl vowed to seize this chance and change her life. She was determined to make it count, but to the others, their new instructor seemed unpredictable and dangerously cruel, leaving everyone anxious. Studying the man's slight limp as he walked, Lucas began to suspect that the teacher was nursing a pretty severe physical injury. Just imagine how insanely strong Sigurd must have been in his absolute prime. Soon after, a heated debate flared up between Lucas and Kai about whether they should report the instructor's violent behavior to the academy. Hours later, the boys headed out for a walk near the cafeteria. Lucas couldn't help but smile, realizing his academy days were going to be way more exciting than he ever anticipated, despite the chaos. Back in class, Kai still cannot wrap his head around why they spent the morning self-studying. He rants that what really bugs him is how their teacher handles things, appointing their leader based only on mystery criteria. Just then, Lucas's sister walks up to them. All Lucas cares about is how Julia is holding up. As she talks about her first day, she mentions her homeroom teacher. Miss Linda is apparently super nice and really welcoming. She even suggested that Julia run for class president this year. Then Julia asks if his martial arts class chose a representative. She wonders if her amazing brother ended up getting picked for the job. Smiling, Lucas tells her they chose someone else, so he is off the hook. He quickly suggests they grab lunch to change the subject. He claims the cafeteria food is legendary, but wait, there is a catch. At this academy, even your lunch is tied to a credit system. Freshmen can only convert cash to school credits one single time, and that amount depends entirely on which department they are in. Still, Lucas is more than happy to treat his sister to a great meal. Julia's eyes light up, and she immediately offers him a bite. Kai just stares at them, totally lost as he watches them interact. He tries to make sense of their sweet sibling dynamics. But what really riles Kai up is the insane bias. Everyone paid the same fee, yet the elites get a massive 100 points. Meanwhile, the martial arts department gets a measly 10 points. One student steps up to complain about the tiny amount, but the staff coldly tells him to go outside and vent his frustration somewhere else. They claim background does not matter, but their absolute disrespect says otherwise. It is blatantly obvious they look down on the fighters. Kai feels like he lost all his rights the second he enrolled here. When Julia suddenly notices their new acquaintance staring at them with such an intense gaze, she immediately offers him a bite of her lunch. Kai gets incredibly emotional, deeply touched by how sweet she is. The group just enjoys their meal, blissfully unaware of what lies ahead. They laugh in a warm, relaxed atmosphere. Suddenly, Lucas senses someone approaching and instantly tenses up. It is Maya walking straight over to their table. She is thrilled to see them, her face beaming with pure delight. Julia is excited by the surprise visit and invites her to sit down. She enthusiastically invites her to join them for lunch. Maya thanks her but politely declines, though she brought a little gift. To thank them for saving her, she baked some delicious cookies. Lucas decides to try one, and wow, the taste is absolutely incredible. His face immediately lights up with sheer delight. That rich, sweet aroma is going to stick with him for a long time. Maya blushes, completely flustered by all their warm praise. Kai quickly grabs a cookie too, instantly declaring that this snack is a total masterpiece. Incredibly delicious, without any hesitation, he decided to get two. Know this charming lady, their quick chat did not last very long, but it stuck with both of them, leaving a pretty great impression on their minds. In Lucas's eyes, the crowded cafeteria was just full of random acquaintances. And those surprise meetings always made him smile, but get this, something bothered him. Why was Mrs. Minna keeping such an incredibly close eye on his sister? His sister had absolutely zero links to that martial arts department guy, and cared nothing about his classes. Frankly, on more than one occasion Theo had used his handsome face to grab her attention, trying hard to get closer. Realizing that even here, his neighbor was actually flying with fire. He had to admit to everyone watching, this young man looked totally extraordinary. Just to get those upperclassmen to notice him, the guy decided to unleash level 6 magic. Lucas thought he was pretty cool himself until he suddenly overheard some weird muttering coming from one of the nearby students. Right then, a man walking past them tripped over a stray rock, and it went rolling forward, almost hitting someone and making everyone jump. That noise snapped Lucas right out of it. He had been so deeply lost in his own thoughts, but now he quickly looked up to see the commotion. Catching sight of Professor Sigurd, he wondered where the man was going like that. And what on earth was causing this bizarre behavior? The professor looked terrible. Yet he kept walking forward, stubbornly pushing through his obvious exhaustion. As the teacher stumbled out of the cafeteria, he headed right outside, struggling to stand while keeping his eyes locked onto the path ahead. He shoved the door open, desperately trying to stay on his feet, but it was tough. Inside, the other academy teachers and President Allen were already waiting in the room. They immediately noticed that Sigurd was once again the last to arrive. Showing up pretty late, some of them thought the department administration should have replaced the guy, but right now, nothing could be done about it. Sigurd slowly dragged himself to an empty seat, trying to look presentable. Under the director's sharp gaze, his posture stiffened up a bit. He forced himself to stay focused, trying his best to look attentive. The director kept watching him, feeling totally helpless to change his reckless behavior. Once everyone had finally gathered, the director officially opened the meeting. They all sat down, getting ready to debate some highly critical academy matters. Now brace yourselves, because President Allen had some huge news. The upcoming event was a training tournament, and everyone was incredibly hyped. This made sense because the Carmina Empire was constantly under attack by magical hordes. Beasts and monsters ravaged the land, so controlling them was highly valued. In fact, this skill was in massive demand everywhere. Now every single first-year student had to join the tournament. They allocated exactly 200 level 1 magical beasts for this event. And the entire survival test would last for 6 whole days. But then a teacher asked aloud, why waste valuable time on the martial arts department? They clearly did not have the skills to deal with dangerous magical beasts anyway. Sigurd's sudden, furious reaction caught the complaining teacher completely off guard. The professor who just voiced his opinion freezes, suddenly gripped by a wave of fear. Most teachers strongly disapproved of this unfair treatment toward their department, so they demanded everyone start on equal footing. Mrs. Linda speaks in a calm, steady voice and firmly supports the head of the martial arts department, while demanding equal conditions for every single student, even though the entire academy stands against them, these first-year students at Allen Academy still have to participate in the upcoming tournament. Some teachers quickly back Mrs. Linda, agreeing that equal treatment is absolutely necessary. But Herge wonders, are there actually any teachers left who agree with the head of martial arts? To Herge's total surprise, it turns out that Sigurd is indeed at the 8th level, with abilities far exceeding every expectation. Everyone finally agrees, though some still whisper that martial arts kids will just run away screaming at the first sign of danger. But the ultimate decision rests with the academy director, Allen, who finally declares that every single faculty will join the tournament. After the tense meeting, the professors leave the conference room, heading back to their respective offices. Right after, 2 teachers pull Mrs. Linda aside to Question if her choice was really the right move. To these two instructors, martial arts training is tough, but the tournament rules are just too harsh. Yet despite all their constant warnings and sound arguments, the woman stands firm and refuses to change her decision. About sending all faculties to the tournament, many years ago it was said that a coward lacking the spirit to face setbacks has no right to call himself a master, none at all. And any student who refuses to enter this tournament will be instantly expelled from the department. In the very next class after the meeting, Professor Sigurd announces that the tournament kicks off in 6 days, and right after class, they are heading outside to train hard so they can actually survive the deadly magical beasts. Seeking some quick answers, Kai asks if this intense beast-slaying tournament is actually a cover for electing a class representative, especially since they already have one appointed. He gets ignored. Class starts immediately, and a few students whisper about how annoying the rich kid always is. During practice, the main character decides to be extremely careful, so he does not accidentally launch his sparring partner out of the ring. Just like that, the class heads out to train, eager to hone their skills and build muscle for the upcoming battles. Teishi stands in the middle of a sparring match. Taking a heavy blow, she flies backward, barely keeping her footing, but she recovers instantly, refocusing her mind, and jumps back in, showing grit and determination, endurance and sheer willpower. Watching this, Lucas thinks the martial arts students are actually showing pretty good progress, even though he still considers them quite weak. Recognizing Teishi as the standout, Lucas ranks her second overall, silently praising her technique and grit. With one swift blow, Lucas knocks his own partner cold, knowing this is only the beginning. Sigurd possessed a sharp eye for talent. As training continued, everyone heard the instructor call for a break, telling them they finished for the day. True to form, Kai immediately started pestering those around him, showing off his usual restless antics right after the session ended. Just as promised, Collins agreed to grab some food for his neighbor on his way to the canteen, surprising Carl with the deal. They had clearly partnered up again, showing how incredibly crafty Kai could be. He used his friend to protect his points, getting him to fetch meals for just 2 points by promising future coins. To Lucas, this entire display seemed bizarre, especially since a wealthy noble was so desperate to maintain his stubborn views. At least Collins showed a lot of intelligence, managing to profit while keeping their relationship on excellent terms. Suddenly, Kai interrupted Lucas's quiet reflection, demanding to know right then if he found him clever, waiting with intense curiosity for a direct response. The annoying boy even suggested that his quiet companion should study his great wisdom, taking close notes on his brilliant moves. With a dismissive sigh, the protagonist casually tried to nudge his nagging classmate away, hoping he would finally shut up and leave. Lucas had zero interest in these pathetic academic schemes, finding absolutely no real benefit for his own goals. Kai insisted his friend had no reason to worry, since his genius sister was an elite who could bail him out. Later, while exploring the mountain trails, the young man realized his peer assumed he was entirely dependent on Julia. In reality, he had no concerns about feeding himself. Nature provided him with endless resources, meaning he never needed points to survive or depend on anyone else. Tonight proved to be no different, as he quickly secured a nourishing meal using his deep survival wisdom. He prioritized watching over his sister, making sure she stayed safe beside him since she was still so young. Had he been alone, he would have spent this dinner training instead, but one looming issue kept him on high alert. The suspicious deputy prime minister was still attempting to approach his little sister. Lucas refused to drop his guard around that scheming woman. If she displayed the slightest hint of danger, he would make her regret it instantly. These heavy thoughts vanished when his newly tamed beast stepped into view, pulling his attention back to the present. As the massive wolf caught the scent of the freshly roasted meat sizzling over the open fire, he became incredibly interested in the delicious meal, staring hungrily at the prey, despite wanting to eat it all. Lucas offered his sister some while finding the massive creature surprisingly cute. The beast eagerly devoured its portion with massive relish, realizing that serving this master had its perks when free food was always guaranteed. But when Lucas mentioned assisting with training, the wolf was deeply shocked because the beast knew exactly how insanely powerful his master already was. Meanwhile, things were developing rapidly at the Ryan family mansion, where suffocating silence hung heavy, warning that massive changes were already coming. Catherine sat out on the terrace, breathing slowly while watching the estate. Deep sadness clouded her eyes. She looked completely lost in her thoughts. Something was clearly eating at her, though she tried to hide it. She stared out, then her husband slowly stepped out beside her. He stood quietly right beside her. He studied her closely, trying to figure out her dark mood. Knowing she could never keep secrets from him, she confessed everything. Missing her kids, her husband gently tried to comfort her. He reminded her academy classes had started, but then offered a surprise. They could go visit them. Tears immediately welled up in her eyes. She choked out a thank you, thrilled he was bringing her along. She was finally going to see her beloved children very soon. Just the thought of their upcoming reunion filled her chest with warmth. But while she found peace, things elsewhere were taking a pretty dark turn. Over at the Grind estate, a sudden tension had everyone looking around. Then a mysterious figure wrapped in a dark cloak slipped inside the quiet room. She kept her head down, carefully scanning her surroundings for threats. But the moment she revealed herself, soft smiles and whispers broke out. Jessica had finally arrived, and her entrance brought a wave of relief. The hostess practically beamed, immediately rushing over to wrap her in a hug. She quickly guided her guest to a comfortable seat in the room. "Make yourself comfortable," the hostess insisted, and Jessica was happy to do so. She sat down with a relaxed smile, taking in the cozy atmosphere. Mrs. Grind poured a glass of rich wine, making the room seem brighter. Jessica happily accepted the drink, loving nothing more than a friendly chat. She truly cherished these moments with her generous, soft-spoken host. Before the real party kicked off, final touches remained. The hostess wanted absolute perfection. Once everything was ready, the evening officially began. Everyone settled in, enjoying the warm, festive vibes of the gathering. Still, the crowd was buzzing with anticipation for the main event. They kept their eyes glued forward, waiting for the official announcement. Finally, the hostess stepped forward to address her eager guests. She raised her glass, calling for silence as the real fun began. Mrs. Grind took the center stage and introduced the night's main attraction. She called the game a miracle of alchemy, but warned it was a bloody dream. That chilling title immediately sent a shiver straight down everyone's spine. They needed to understand the deadly specifics of what they were getting into. Jessica hung on every word, committing every detail to memory. Meanwhile, the next morning, Tisha woke up expecting another grueling training session. She started stretching early, but the rest of her classmates were absolutely miserable. The boys were already calling Mr. Sigurd a heartless slave driver. Their muscles were so incredibly sore they had barely slept all night. Seeing their pain, the class rep tried to reassure them. She reminded them that pain was necessary to get stronger. Seeing her watch, the boys quickly puffed out their chests, pretending they were fine. She was completely caught off guard, nodding along to Kai's words, everyone present agreed he was easily the strongest student and deserved real respect. From all his classmates, but only Lucas knew the truth. Why Kai was suddenly so powerful, every single night he inhaled a special soothing essence to boost his strength. Meanwhile, Tisha thought things were going great with these 4 boys. At this rate, they would easily handle way tougher training and become legendary martial arts masters. Right then, Kai and Lucas kicked off their session with intense focus. Every single strike looked sharper as their confidence grew. They were really feeling themselves now. During the very next session, Lucas decided to step back and take a quick breather. He wanted to recover his energy while watching the others train. One of them unleashed a lightning-fast strike directly at his opponent, who could barely stay on his feet, while Kai waited for the next blow. Lucas immediately launched another highly precise attack straight forward. Both boys were pushing hard, trying to sharpen their reflexes and accuracy. As the sparring matches went on, Kai noticed something impressive. His opponent had incredibly solid technique and pretty fast reflexes. Lucas also saw that his classmate was truly giving this everything. He was trying so hard to level up on the balcony. Academy Director Alan was quietly keeping a close eye on them. Suddenly, Lucas felt a cold gaze on them and tensed up instantly. Talk about a tense moment. He absolutely needed to scan the area and find out exactly who was tracking their every single movement. Near a tree on the hill sat an old man, his eyes locked onto The training grounds, Lucas quickly realized he was the main target. Of those piercing eyes, this mysterious stranger was tracking his every step. But while Lucas was completely distracted, Kai noticed his strange hesitation and went for a sudden attack, though Lucas barely dodged it. Then he suddenly fell face first, feeling like the room was spinning. Everything turned completely upside down, but when Kai got back up, he demanded that Lucas stop dodging so they could settle this now. They would fight until a clear winner emerged. Lucas silently agreed, bracing his body to block whatever incoming attack was headed his way. Meanwhile, after watching the department for a bit, the old man stood up and walked away. Soon, Mina approached Director Austin, offering to guide him to the library, but he preferred a quiet walk instead. Spotting Lucas, the director watched closely. He respected his sheer drive. He saw his dedication, but he also sensed something else entirely. Lucas was holding back. He was hiding his true, monstrous power. No one knew, not even Director Allen could guess his strength. It was impossible to measure how deep his talent actually ran. Hours passed, training finally wrapped up, and everyone headed home. The next day, Mr. Sigurd introduced some essential healing massage techniques, explaining why they are crucial skills for any serious fighter to master. He didn't just explain, he actually demonstrated every detail of the massage. Afterward, no one in the class felt any soreness. Soon, the entire group completely forgot that only the four of them had been full of energy since morning. Meanwhile, our main character decided to build a brand new training area. Right from the start, the young man resolved to buy all the necessary supplies, ensuring he could use everything without any issues. The Academy's famous magic shop, Allen, happened to be one of the premier spots in the Empire, stocking rare items rarely seen in public. And the moment Lucas stepped inside, the sheer scale of the place took him aback. It was absolutely massive, but even in a place like this, credits were the only currency. Despite the incredible selection, every single item was quite pricey. Lucas quickly realized this little trip would cost him over 100 credits. Honestly, there was no way he could count on his sister, since she was also running pretty low on credits herself. For now, he just wanted some magic potions for his bath, planning to trade Julia's cave materials for cash later. Walking up to the counter with his selection, our young hero noticed that the clerk was fast asleep, so he decided to patiently wait for her to wake. When she finally opened her eyes, she blinked at the quiet customer standing there. Looking a little awkward, the young man kept his voice soft as he spoke. He explained he was just taking these few items and slid his card across to pay. Sitting up straight, the saleswoman scanned his items and muttered that the total came to 5 points. He just had to tap his card against the magic glowing sphere and wait a brief moment for the transaction to complete.